Yo pienso que no son tan inútiles las noches que te di. Te marchas y que yo no intento discutírtelo, lo sabes y lo sé. Al menos quedo a te solo esta noche. Prometo no tocarte, ¿estás segura? Tal vez es que me voy sintiendo solo, porque conozco esa sonrisa tan definitiva. Tu sonrisa que a mí mismo me abrió tu paraíso. Se dice que con cada hombre hay una como tú, pero mi sitio luego lo ocuparás con alguno, igual que yo, mejor lo dudo, porque esta vez agachas la mirada, me pides que sigamos siendo amigos. Amigos para que, maldita sea, a un amigo lo perdono, pero a ti te amo. Pueden parecer banales mis instintos naturales. Hay una cosa que yo no te he dicho aún, que mis problemas sabes que se llaman tú. Solo por eso tú me ves hacerme duro, para sentirme un poquito más seguro. Y si no quieres ni decir en qué he fallado, recuerda que también a ti te he perdonado. Y en cambio tú dices lo siento, no te quiero, te me vas con esta historia entre tus dedos. ¿Qué vas a hacer? Busca una excusa y luego márchate, porque de mí no debieras preocuparte, no debes provocarme, que yo te escribiré un par de canciones, tratando de ocultar mis emociones, pensando pero poco en las palabras, y hablaré de la sonrisa tan definitiva, tu sonrisa que a mí mismo me abrió tu paraíso. Hay una cosa que yo no te he dicho aún, que mis problemas sabes que se llaman tú. Solo por eso tú me ves hacerme duro, para sentirme un poquito más seguro. Y si no quieres ni decir en qué he fallado, recuerda que también a ti te he perdonado. Y en cambio tú dices lo siento, no te quiero, y te me vas con esta historia entre tus dedos. Na first day of my life. Swear I was born right in the doorway. I went out in the rain, suddenly everything changed. They're spreading blankets on the beach. Yours is the first face that I saw. I think I was blind before I met you. And I don't know where I am, I don't know where I've been, but I know where I want to go. And so I thought I'd let you know. Yeah, these things take forever, I especially am slow. But I realized that I need you, and I wondered if I could come home. Remember the time you drove all night just to meet me in the morning? And I thought it was strange, you said everything changed. You felt as if you just woke up. And you said, this is the first day of my life. I'm glad I didn't die before I met you. But now I don't care, I could go anywhere with you, and I'd probably be happy. So if you wanna be with me, if these things there's no telling, we just have to wait and see. But I'd rather be working for a paycheck than waiting to win the lottery. Besides, maybe this time it's different. I mean, I really think you like me.
All right, y'all. ¿Cómo andamos? ¿Cómo andamos? I guess I can hit you with a little bit of... Oh, no. Huh. I wonder why that is. Let me see. I don't care. ¿Sabes qué? Me vale madre. Thank y'all for being here. Little doom and gloom in the background. Let me help that out. Let me get to that. Shout out to Vic over here flexing over here. Saying reminds me of él and reminds me of ella. Ay, cabrón. Pinche rompe corazones. All right, Vic. No, we're good. I made sure to have everything ready, prepared. I hope everyone's doing it, well today. Keeping it easy, Claudia, in the live deculturation chat. Ken Eunice in the Twitch chat, and of course the usual suspects. The usual suspects on the main channel. Appreciate y'all so much. I think I'm gonna have to be here, right? Let's see. Right there. I hope y'all are doing well. We'll keep it to a tight 4-hour stream today. I realize I need to spend some more time outside and touch grass. No. Like literally, like, I don't know, head down to the beach, go out for a hike, do things like that. To just, recenter myself. A lot of my free time was spent like training in general when I had free time. Walking the dog is one thing, but it's kind of like when you're walking through the city and stuff, it's still a lot of noise, a lot going on. So I'm like, you know what? I need to find myself a park, just chill out. I need to find a beach, just chill out. I need to find something. So we're going to do that. That's being prioritized today. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Yes, I'm gonna start walking barefoot everywhere from now on to just connect, center myself, ground myself. Is that what they call it when they put the like the little copper thing and they're like, oh, you gotta find the water or some shit? Mm. Oh, you're surprised I'm not watching Spider-Man? Look, after the heartbreak and complete disappointment of Deadpool and Wolverine, mainly because the Deadpool movies were already like not great at all, but at least they had a cohesive storyline, which is like, you know, cheesy, but it is what it is, like a love story with Wade and Vanessa. And I'm like, that's dope. Like, I'm cool with seeing, you know, a trilogy about their relationship. I'm all for that. When Deadpool and Wolverine came out and they sidelined that relationship and basically gave us like a cameo of why that ended, I was like, nah, bro. Like you literally could have just done Deadpool Wolverine unrelated to the main Deadpool storyline, whatever that was, and just give us that. It was just really, I thought it was really disrespectful to the little bit of story and plot that the first two movies had that was barely teetering. And so I was like, I can't, I cannot abide by this, you know? So after Deadpool and Wolverine, I was like, I'm done with Marvel. And of course, you know, it's everything. So it's like, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And they cast Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, which I thought was a horrible casting. I didn't like it. I actually wanted, if y'all haven't seen Midnight Mass, last time we were on the Discord, and you know, the question was raised, what show would you recommend? And you know, sure, there's Severance, but then a lot of people were disappointed with how it abandoned class analysis in the second season for the relationship. And it's like, look, I don't watch these shows to get fucking theory or to have a critique of capitalism. What are we doing here? Right? It wouldn't get approved. But amazing acting by the entire cast, right? And I just finished a couple weeks ago watching DTF. DTF something. I forgot what the city was called. And with Jason Bateman. Great kind of like just really bland, you know, slightly dark humor. Great characters. Really enjoyed it. But Midnight Mass is just fucking fantastic. And I'm not, again, horror is not my genre. And it's not really a horror, like, you know, it's a spooky. It's not spooky, but that's about it. Yes, St. Louis, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Gross Domestic, what did you think of that? Because I really enjoyed it. But there's an actor in this, Raul Coley, who I don't know what's going on with that TikTok. That is concerning. Who I thought would have been an amazing Reed Richards. Who I wanted, like that was my cat. Like, come on, man, you know. And they didn't cast him, which was unfortunate. I thought that he really does have that kind of like ability to be a really emotionless asshole while carrying that pensive, constant weight of the responsibility of solving the world's problems that Reed Richards should have. And mind you, I'm not a big Fantastic Four fan. I did read the Hickman run and a little bit of a infamous Iron Man, but for the most part, oh, and of course, shoot, what was Hickman's Secret Wars. So I read that. So I've read quite a bit of, I guess, the modernish Fantastic Four. Honestly, the Hickman run was beautiful, but I don't really have much to compare it to. And so I was like, all right, let's see. Maybe I'm wrong about Pedro Pascal because he is a great actor, and I think he did well enough. But overall, it was a very lackluster movie. And then after that, I was like, yeah, like I don't know if I'm gonna go back to watching Marvel movies. Nothing has really pulled me back into that, and I don't know. This will. It looks very convoluted. The Hulk's in there. We're assuming Jean Grey's in there. There's another villain there. It's just the whole MJ Ned thing is like, can something hold and stick for a moment so that we can get Peter Parker by himself, isolated, desolate, you know? Let me feel, let me feel seen on screen now. But like, just give us something different. I heard that it's the best Spider-Man movie to date, the most Spider-Man movie. But the secret is I'm not a huge Spidey fan anyways. I think I only have like one, and I think it was Chip Zdarsky's run, only because I heard that it was like humorous, and I was like, oh, I enjoy Spidey with like a good sense of humor. Like I tried the depressing shit, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't think his powers lend for depressing stories. All right. I haven't seen the Hill House or House on the Hill, but I hear that it's like I hear people arguing that Midnight Mass and The House are like his best work. But I like supposedly like Midnight Mass was something he was trying to get done for a while. I think all TV shows should be 5 seasons max. It's more than enough. 10 episodes a season. It's 50 hours. More than enough. Like The Office has such a fucking something about John Krasinski, the CIA fucking operative, has such a fucking massive dip after Steve Carell leaves that it's not even worth it. They should have had one more season, cash in, and be over with it. And then like a movie, like a Christmas special, like The Office, the original one. Yeah, that's what Mike Filligan is known for, right? They're just using the same actors, which to me it's like it's cool as long as the actors have the range. But I do know that some of them like really start writing for the actors, like Plurb. I think Plurb was written specifically for the white lady in Better Call Saul. Okay, I will say this: the best Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. Charming, funny, insecure, looks nerdy enough. Um, he's very lanky. So when he's like, I don't know, a very acrobatic look. It's just that he was in the worst fucking Spider-Man movies. But I think he is the best Spider-Man. And the fact that you could watch those horrible movies and still enjoy his performance goes to show. Which Spider-Man 3? The one with Venom? Apparently there was a deleted scene in Spider-Man 3 with Sandman where his you get to see his daughter, Sandman's daughter, out in the playground, and he makes himself into a giant castle, sand castle, right? And they cut that shit out, and I'm like, dude, that is fucking gut wrenching. Like, why would you take that out? But in No Way Home, when Andrew Garfield catches MJ, Andrew's acting in that scene, I think just demonstrated that he is like magnitudes acting ability greater than anyone else on that set, with the exception of Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is fucking one of the legends. However, I think Andrew Garfield is very much on his way there. He just hasn't had like the big breaks in terms of like, you know, the Spider-Man thing was a flop, and that was the closest thing that he got to like just a cornerstone character like that. But I think in 20 years, Andrew Garfield and like Robert Pattinson are gonna be, you know, some of the aging elite actors. But I wonder if Andrew Garfield's ever gonna get another shot at cementing a legacy character like that, because Robert Pattinson right now has the Batman, which I think it's, at this rate of filming and production, it should just be a 2-part. Like, it shouldn't be a trilogy, it should just be a 2-parter, and I'd be okay with that. Right? That's my comfort movie, by the way, right now. I recently watched once again for like the 20th time, the Royal Tenenbaums, which, like, man, favorite Wes Anderson movie, and don't give a fuck. That's my go-to. I think it's his best work. I think it's Ben Stiller's best performance. Funny enough, I threw on Zoolander in the background yesterday, and just, he doesn't have a wide range, but I think in the Royal Tenenbaums, he just is able to lock in on that like Jewish neurotic neurosis, hyper sensitive shit that just fits perfectly to the character. But the Batman is another one of my like major comfort movies for sure. And if things get really bad, like I need to get really distracted, Mad Max Fury Road just gives you no time to think. Yeah, Robert Pattinson is up there, but he's just not old enough, so he can't play certain roles. Yeah. Okay. I don't even know what that is, but okay. All right. Honest question. Who here still hasn't watched Fences with Denzel Washington? Uh, Beat and worst movie I've seen and I'll never watch again. I haven't seen it. It looks just like a tearjerker of a movie, so I'm fine. I think American Gangster, my favorite Denzel performance, because there's so much, like, unlike Training Day where he's able to really like just let loose. American Gangster is like a constant, like a really restrained performance, just like um consistently on the verge of just unleashing, you know, that energy. So I'm the so yeah, I don't know. I mean, he has so many great fucking films. Furiosa, I love the fact that like technically he wrote Furiosa first, knew that that was not gonna get made, and so he made Mad Max Fury Road. I love that lore behind it because it's like, let me give you like just nonstop action. And if you watch those chronologically, I haven't done that yet, but if you watch them chronologically from my mind's eye, I think it's like just a perfect what, like 5 hour like watch. All right. All right, let's lock in. I appreciate y'all. Ooh, The Northman is the closest I've ever felt watching a movie to that original feeling that I had with watching Gladiator. I've said this before. Gladiator was the first movie that made me realize like acting was an art. Mainly because of Joaquin Phoenix's character was just so demented When he hugs his father and like kills him through that hug, that embrace. I don't even know how old I was. I was probably like fucking 10 max or some shit. And I was just like, I was like, what? Who is this evil man? Like, arrest him now. When he stabs Marcus Aurelius um, before the match, I was losing my shit, man. I was like, kill him, murder him. What year did that come out? I wonder how old I was when I watched it. I don't remember watching it in theaters though. 2000? Yeah, I was like, so I was probably like 8. Movies took longer to come out on VHS back then and stuff. So yeah. Super Broly, how the fuck did that get mentioned? Hell yeah, Super Broly was amazing. I still have a lot of old VHS tapes of like Dragon Ball. I could never complete the entire like lineup, um, but I had a couple of them like that. And my favorite Dragon Ball movie was, of course, uh, the Future Trunks one with Gohan with the scar on one arm is just fucking gnarly, man. Yeah, gross. Some people at the theater walked out of Furiosa. I think they just weren't expecting that. I think they were really there for Mad Max Fury Road 2. Yeah, the Future Trunks movie is fucking amazing, man. Ooh, Major Lasers, you're so fucking lucky. I didn't watch it in theaters because I assumed it was gonna be some Viking slop. Major Laser says, I saw the Northman in the theater, completely empty theater except me and one other dude. Man, what I would give to watch that shit in IMAX. I'm not big on like I have to see something in IMAX, but man, that movie is so fucking gorgeous. Yeah. Wait, there's a Future Trunks movie? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. You gotta watch that shit. Yeah, the Future Trunks movie is fucking badass. Oh, let's see if we can get the this cover, man. Look at this gorgeous fucking cover, man. Hold on, let me see if I can move this. Look at this shit. I know I still have this in VHS. I don't know if it works, but like this right here is like you don't understand, man. The amount of times I've seen this movie, and I was never one of those kids that would like get obsessed with a specific thing or rewatch it nonstop. But this is one of those rare ones that like just rewind the fucking tape and play it again, And the first time you watch it, you're just fucking kid. I'm just fucking heartbroken, tormented. The scene when he goes Super Saiyan, fuck, man. It's like it doesn't get better than that. It's top tier shit. Yeah. Oh, it's an OVA, not movie. I don't even know. I've heard. What is OVA? Like original what? Um, but yeah, you gotta watch that. I don't know if it holds up. I assume it does. I assume it holds up, but I'm not sure. mm, original video animation. And that's because it wasn't like part of the manga, I'm assuming. But yeah, it's sheesh. So Kanyuna says, always meant to check out Dragon Ball, was far too busy being hungover when it first came out. I don't recommend Dragon Ball Z. Sorry, I don't recommend Dragon Ball Z at all. If you haven't seen it, like if you weren't a kid when you watched it, the pacing is horrendous. I don't know if Kai helps. The Dragon Ball Z Kai, it's like gonna like without the fillers. I don't know how that helps. I know they updated the art. I don't recommend it. You know, I had put somebody on to Attack on Titan, and I fucked up because it's so high paced and it's so brutal, so quick. And then I tried to get them to watch Yu Yu Hakusho because recognizing Dragon Ball Z was just not even an option, and they couldn't get into it, and they weren't like an anime fan or anything like that. And I understood. I didn't press the issue, and I was just like, fuck, man, like you can't have to start with some older animes and build up to the more recent stuff because the pacing is something that is just so brutal. It really shows that it's better to not have it be political and let people just relax. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, it really is like the reason why I enjoy, you know, the Imperial 80s. Shout out to Millennials for Killing Capitalism, is because it all is political. Even the background shit and how things get made is political. My thing is, I just don't like when you put so much weight on like, bro, it's Hollywood. Of course, they're not going to give you the politics that you want. And I would just appreciate it if we all started from that point. The only reason I made the fucking the Superman video wasn't because I was like, I went to go watch Superman and I was like, what? This wasn't pro-Palestine? The Man of Tomorrow is not representing the Palestinian people on screen? What is happening? What happened to my Superman? Like, I wasn't, what the fuck? I was like, I'm gonna go watch a James Gunn movie. Hopefully it's good. I'm not a huge Superman fan to begin with. Although I did read Grant Morris's Superman. I didn't enjoy it, to be honest. Most of it was like annoying to get through. But there is a specific panel, specific page, I should say, that I won't spoil, that had me fucking crying. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Had me crying. Like there's a scene in that, and the reveal was so fucking amazing that it made like the whole. I mean, I think 90% of that was like okay for me, but that one page, and if you read Grant Morris's Superman, the art is horrendous. I hate the art, but there's a scene there that involves what's his name? What's Superman's father's name? Something Kent, right? Is it John? I don't know. But it was like fuck, dude. Like that shit hit, and I was like, all right. The hype isn't what I deserved, I don't think, but it's great. But the reason why I made this wasn't because I was disappointed with like its politics. It was because I was annoyed at all the other fucking um, streamers making it seem like it had great politics. That was super annoying and obnoxious to me. What is this? Oh yeah, that's never gonna happen with anime. That's an interesting suggestion though. Simplistic Linguistics says, I don't understand why when they release animes on digital, but they don't remove the commercial intro outro. Like they should at least give you the option to skip the previous episode recap or the intro outro for commercials. That alone would save you a couple of minutes every episode. No. You must suffer. You know, that's just the toll you pay to be an anime fan, I think. All right, let's get to this. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all humoring me. It really helps a lot. It lifts my spirits, if you will. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, and let's get started with this. All right, we're good. Let's get started with this. All right, y'all. So here we have, of course, the shocking revelation. Peru's new president says military will lead crime operations in emergencies. And just already normalizing militarization on every street corner. Yeah. Martial law coming soon. It's going to happen here. Keiko Fujimori has been sworn in as Peru's first female elected president. Hey, ladies. Yeah. Congratulations to every young girl in the world, but specifically in Peru, that someday dreams about being a fascist political leader, following the footsteps of their lineage. You too can make it, sweetie. Don't ever let a man tell you that you can't align with US interests, get put into power, and be able to, bring havoc and terror onto the people of your country. The latest conservative leader to come to power in Latin America. On Tuesday's ceremony in Lima, the 51-year-old said the military would temporarily lead operations in crime-ridden areas during emergencies until order was restored. More than 100 protesters gathered in the capital against Fujimori's inauguration, the AFP news agency reported. Many were relatives of state violent victims, including some from during the presidency of her father, Alberto Fujimori, who was jailed for corruption and human rights abuses during his campaign against the left-wing guerrilla insurgency in the 1990s. Keiko Fujimori is Peru's 10th president in a decade, a tumultuous period in which no leader completed a full 5-year term. A number of foreign dignitaries were present at her inauguration in Lima, among them the right-wing president of Argentina, Ecuador, and Chile. In June, she defeated her left-wing rival, Roberto Sanchez, in a razor-thin presidential runoff in her 4th attempt to win the job. I guess the CIA was just kind of like, you got to earn it. You got to do it yourself. You got to really girl boss this moment. And she just couldn't get it done until they finally really tipped the scales. In her first address as president, Fujimori said she had received Peru in a catastrophic condition, but the country had infinite potential. Her hardline campaign against insecurity featured heavily as she announced that the military would at times take charge of maintaining order in areas with high crime. During states of emergency, the armed forces will temporarily take the lead in security operations. And so the question is, much like Noboa, much like Bukele, how long are these state of emergencies going to run? It was a statement that echoed the role of the military under her father, who died in 2024. Aww. Can we really blame her for being a fascist? She's got daddy issues. You're allowed to be a fascist and a horrible human being if you have daddy issues. We know this. She also vowed to protect citizens against effects of the El Niño weather phenomenon and increase the minimum wage, lamenting that inequality in Peru was the highest in Latin America. Peru is experiencing its worst security crisis in decades, fueled by expanding local and foreign criminal gangs that oversee contract killings and extortions. That's it. That's all we're getting. Jeez. The BBC, y'all, wrapping up this little article by basically letting you know, well, sure, her father was a fascist fucking dictator, but she needs to be able to implement a state of emergency and calling the military because there's an increase of contract killings and extortion. So, it's necessary. Come on now. So we're gonna see how this develops with Operation Southern Spear and everything. It's not looking good. I will say I went out of order. I didn't realize this, but it's fine. We'll adapt and do this one next here. Listen, for all the, what do we call them? Morenistas? For all the people applauding uncritically Claudia Sheinbaum, perdóname. Please forgive me. But then, the thing is, and the issue really is, like, we have to stop glorifying these politicians, especially these politicians that are not socialists, are not communists, that are not seeking like revolutionary change, that are seeking just reformism, just so that the next reactionary can pull all that shit back. And so not only do we have to be hypercritical, but we also have to recognize the fact that a lot of this is, in my opinion, fugazi. I think a lot of this is a work, it's a show, it's a circus to try and make it seem like change is occurring. But these are just crumbs, and try to make people satisfied with that being enough. Saying, hey, look, you already went pretty far. What more can you want? Don't get greedy now. Just keep following the process, keep doing the voting, the electoralism, and everything will work out. You got this far this time. Maybe next time you get that far. Like, wow. Just look at the positive, Focus on that. From Nakla, Mexico favors Israel for weapon imports. The government's deepening commercial ties to Israel are emblematic of its contradictory approach to Palestine solidarity. From John Lindsay Poland, July 29, 2026. We'll start here. We'll keep this. Can you all see the bottom here? Yes. All right, perfect. Last year, as Israel carried out its ongoing genocide in Gaza and waged wider regional war, the Mexican government purchased more firearms from Israel than from any other country. Now, the obvious question is going to be like, well, okay, how much are they buying in general, in comparison? Like, you could say that, but maybe they're just buying 10,000 weapons from Israel and they're buying a whole lot less from everyone else. What's the big deal? And I would say that even purchasing one weapon from a settler colonial project that is proactively carrying out a genocide is aiding and abetting in a genocide. The staggering figure, numbering nearly 18,000 assault rifles, light machine guns, and pistols, comes from Mexico's report to United Nations Armed Trade Treaty, the ATT. While Israeli weapons are purchased all around the world, 2025 was a record year for the world's 7th largest arms industry. The fact that one of the region's few remaining progressive governments is deepening ties with the genocidal state raises serious concerns. Nevertheless, it was not all that surprising a revelation, since taking power in October 2024, President Claudia Sheinbaum's approach to Israel, like that of her predecessor, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, has been mixed, much to the frustration of Mexico's vibrant Palestinian solidarity movement. Let's check this out here. Oh. What's going on? Okay. This is from October 21st, 2025. Mexicans demand a complete break with Israel as the country's progressive government drags its feet. The demand to end political and economic relations with Israel is an ever-growing movement. Oh. That's beautiful. They have committed they have not committed a single crime. We are not in agreement with what Israel has done. The humanitarian aid needs to get into Gaza. On October 2nd, 2025, President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo announced on national television her diplomatic letter requesting Israel repatriate 6 Mexican citizens who had been illegally detained the previous day by the Israeli military. The activists, who have since been repatriated to Mexico, were members of the global Samud flotilla, the humanitarian convoy seeking to deliver aid to Gaza by sea. Sheinbaum's stern statement contrasted with her government's prior treatment of the Mexican delegation to the flotilla, which has been one of establishing distance. The government's failure to formally endorse the global Samud flotilla, which activists hope would provide the aid convoy with more protection, was the case with the governments of Italy and Spain, stirred up tensions with Mexico's powerful Palestinian solidarity movement. Indeed, in the days leading up to the interception of the global Samud flotilla, protests erupted across the country demanding President Sheinbaum break all diplomatic relations with Israel. Since the interception, these calls have grown even louder. The recent debate over the flotilla is far from the first time that Mexico's Palestinian solidarity movement has clashed with the progressive government of the ruling Morena party. Informed by their own recent history of violence at the hands of Israeli weapons and technology, Mexican activists have demanded that the government cut ties with Israel and abandon its steadfast defense of a two-state solution that appears increasingly impossible. Up until this point, the government has shown little interest in doing so. So I'm very ignorant on this subject here in regards to Mexicans sentiment towards this. So I do want to check this part out here, a history of moderation. The historic win of Andrés Manuel López Obrador in 2018 ushered in a new era of Mexican politics. AMLO's campaign had promised a revolutionary political economic project known as the Fourth Transformation that would break sharply with the neoliberalism, redistribute wealth, and promote reconciliation with the country's indigenous communities. Changes to the country's foreign relations, too, were part of that promise. Nevertheless, when it comes to Mexico's relationships with Israel, a benchmark for the country's progressivism, change has been slow to come. The relationship has deep roots. Starting in mid-20th century and continuing well into the present day, AMLO's predecessor, Enrique Peña Nieto, of the ruling Institutional Revolutionary Party, deepened the relationships when he bought the Israeli spyware known as Pegasus, a purchase for which he is now being investigated on charges of bribery. I didn't know about that. We won't read this, but that's fucking hilarious. I was unaware of this. From the beginning of Morena's time in power, AMLO and now Sheinbaum have been ambivalent and contradictory vis-a-vis their willingness to transform their relationship to Israel, a country upon which Mexico relies for the training of its armed forces and a large amount of armed spyware. In 2023, AMLO took a large step towards recognizing Palestinian statehood when he elevated the country's special delegation mission to that of an embassy. The move reaffirmed the president's long-running support of a two-state solution. Eesh. I mean, I didn't even know that they were sending the Mexican military to get trained over there. This is wild, man. I was unaware of this. Where are we here? In the aftermath of October 7th attacks, however, AMLO stuck to a more moderate position, ruling out immediately the severing of ties with Israel over its war crimes. At a special UN Assembly on Israeli actions in the occupied Palestinian territories, held in late October 2023, Mexico's representative called for a ceasefire and urged Israel to lift its siege of the Palestinian territories, while stressing the need for a two-state solution. As the war carried on, AMLO adamantly refused to use the language of genocide to characterize Israel's atrocities in Gaza. How do you adamantly refuse to do that? The very next day, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, known as AMLO, refused to define Israel's actions as genocide. Quote, "We don't want to put ourselves into a definition of this type that instead of resolving a conflict, aggravates it," he said in the morning news conference. It was the latest evidence of López Obrador's It was the latest evidence of López Obrador's ambiguous, somewhat contradictory stance towards Israel and its war in Gaza, which is nearing the 8th month. And again, calling it a war, but I mean, this was an approach that Bernie Sanders was taking. So, a bit unsurprising there. If you know a little bit of like the character of AMLO. But you know, yeah, I mean, just I don't think I covered this at all. Kid ego. That's why Zapatistas hate Morena too. Let's see here. Let me find this here real quick. Let's see. What am I looking for here? Denounces? Is that the word I'm looking for? Jose Alfredo Jimenez. Interesting. Hold on. Let me see if I can find what I was looking for here. Oh, damn it. Is this correct here? Hold on. Let me see. I'm sorry. Damn, I don't think I'm gonna find it. I don't think I'm gonna find it, y'all. My bad. But let's just say that Subcomandante Insurgente Galeano, aka Marcos, wasn't giving a full throated support on October 7th. All right, let's go back to the main article. My apologies. Well, kind of to the main article. Morena's quest to remain neutral has contrasted starkly with the region's other progressive governments, as left-wing governments in Bolivia, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia came out strongly against Israel's genocidal response to the attacks of October 7th. Mexico's reaction stood out. After more than a year of Israel's attacks, Mexico briefly made headlines when it moved to join South Africa's case in the International Court of Justice, which accused Israel of genocide. Nevertheless, even then, the government of Mexico still positioned itself as a supporter of its two-state solution. AMLO refused to use the word genocide, and he vowed not to cut diplomatic ties with Israel amid the ICJ court proceedings. The next day, after Israeli strikes killed 45 Palestinians in Rafah, over 200 activists demonstrated outside the Israeli embassy in Mexico City, setting fire to the building and demanding the government take urgent action against Israel. AMLO condemned the protesters' actions and continued to insist that Mexico would not cut ties with Israel. The position of Claudia Sheinbaum on Israel, the first woman and Jewish person to lead the country.
Probably like 50% of these comments are fine. 30% are borderline. Like somewhere in the middle. Potentially yes, potentially no, depending on the intent behind them. And then like 20% are just straight up openly anti-Semitic.
Why do you need to mention she's Jewish? She's just a human being like you and me. Where's she at? Was heavily scrutinized as she came to power. Nevertheless, even though she is well read on the issue and had previously publicly condemned Israeli violence in a newspaper article, her approach has largely reflected that of her predecessor. She has continued to champion an increasingly defunct two-state solution and paired symbolic denunciations of Israeli violence with an unwillingness to cut diplomatic, commercial, or military ties. She had also long refused to use the word genocide to describe Israel's conduct in Gaza, though she did so for the first time in late September. Days later, however, her country's delegation to the United Nations was one of the few in the region that refrained from boycotting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to the General Assembly. Man. Yeah. So just speaking out of both sides of their mouths. Interesting. I mean, please, people have to recognize that Morena is not a revolutionary party. It just isn't. You could say maybe it's a radical reformist party, and even that would be a stretch. It's a reformist party. One rooted in pseudo-nationalism, if that. I'm sorry, I didn't eat like I should have. And these chips are like just killing it right now. I should have gotten something to drink other than water if I was going to eat like chips. I already ran out of the coconut water. Rookie mistake. All right, let's get to this. Do me a favor, y'all. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Where are we at? Okay. All right, we can skip that. We kind of read through that right now. Against this backdrop, Israeli military arms and surveillance technology have continued to flow to Mexico. The country's imported more than 3 times as many firearms from Israel last year than in 2024, the most since 2018. Sheinbaum insisted last October that these purchases were made for state police and that they were holdovers from state requests in 2024, and that they no longer exist. However, the Mexican army also purchased Israeli rifles and handguns for its own use in 2022, 2023, and 2024, according to its published list of weapons purchases. Damn. This is why you don't fucking lie. We're going to go through all 38 pages of this right now on stream. All of these transactions are part of a multifaceted and far-reaching weapons relationship between Israel and Mexico. Israeli weapons and surveillance trade in the region Mexico and Israel have an extensive history in the weapons and surveillance trade, though starting decades earlier. The relationship warmed in the 1990s before taking off in the 2000s. Since 2000, Israel has exported missiles, helicopters, armored vehicles, drones, and small arms to Mexico. Mexico also relies upon Israel for a wide array of surveillance systems. It was the first country known to have purchased the Pegasus spyware software from Israel's NSO group. Mexico number one, baby. You heard it here first. Don't let them tell you otherwise. We're number one for a fucking reason. All right. The rest of Latin America. If you're not first, you're last. Eesh. Mm-mm. Doing so as early as 2011. The spyware infects and captures the data from its target cell phones. Mexico reportedly paid more than $60 million for the spyware, which was deployed against 15,000 people, including journalists, environmental and human rights defenders, and politicians. I think we covered this at one point, right? Or am I mistaken? 50 people linked to Mexico's president among potential targets of NSO clients. I think so. I think we went over this. I'm actually going to save that one for myself for later. As a treat. In its long commercial relations with the Israeli military and surveillance companies, Mexico is not alone. Other Latin American countries have also imported Israeli weapons, military technology, and surveillance systems, according to the database of Israeli military and security export. Brazil, for example, has purchased hundreds of millions of dollars worth of aircraft, drones, bombs, and other military equipment from the Israeli manufacturer, Elbit. As in Mexicans, as in Mexicans, sorry, as in the Mexican case, this has occurred under both conservative and progressive administrations, spanning the presidencies of both far-right President, is that how you spell it? Jair Bolsonaro, and left-wing Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. Why have I never heard, or I guess read out his first name? Yeah. What the fuck happened in 2018? I should know this as a Mexican historian, but sadly, I don't. Colombia also has a long history of military trade with Israel, some of which has even continued under leftist leader Gustavo Petro, an outspoken critic of Israel. Even positive steps forward, like the country's decision to move away from Israel-made Galil rifles and cut diplomatic ties, are likely to be reversed soon. Incoming far-right president Alvarado de la Espriella has already signaled that strengthening ties with Israel will be a priority. Sorry, are we still good, chat? Am I still live? That's actually a drop that I need, honestly, huh? The Mexican historian. Why don't, yeah. I don't know why I didn't think about getting that. No, it looks like we're good. No, I was just asking because I was getting random messages saying that the live chat was disconnected. I just want to double check. All right, appreciate it. The relationship is not solely unidirectional. Take the case of Mexico's. Ooh, sorry. I should stop. One, my throat is already fucking messed up and shit. And two, why am I eating spicy chips? I don't know. I'm like, we're gonna talk about Mexico today. I gotta play the part, you know? Yesterday I had the hidden jalapenos. Today I gotta have some spicy chips. The relationship is not solely unidirectional. Take the case of Mexico's Maquila sector, which has exported millions of dollars of industrial parts to some of Israel's largest weapons maker, including Elbit, Israel Aerospace Industries, and Rafael. In 2024, just one company, Presa Forjadas, in North Nueva Leon state exported an estimated $41 million of such parts to Rafael and IAI, according to the global trade database Global Wits. Mexico also has a firearms producer, Mendoza, which exported 27,750 pistols and rifles in 2025, nearly all to the United States. The persistence and breadth of these deals reflect how Israeli technology and production are well integrated into military systems throughout the Americas, on a separate track from the statements by political leaders about Israel's genocidal actions. I mean, one thing to consider here is, this last part here about exporting all these weapons to the US, I feel like that's just fair, you know? With like shit like Operation Fast and Furious, I think that it's fair for Mexico to be like, all right, let me send you a couple of these firearms for the classrooms, you know, for the educational purposes and all. But this one is just horrendous, man. Just a hard-working blue-collar man making death machines. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the live stream chat. The persistence of the breadth of these details, excuse me. The persistence of breadth of these deals reflect how Israeli technology and production are well integrated into military systems throughout the Americas on a separate track from the statements by politicians. I read that already. My bad, I got distracted with, I don't know what's happening with the chat. How Mexico uses Israeli guns. The firearms Mexico imports from Israel come principally from Israeli Weapons Industries, IWI, a private Israeli company owned by the SK Group that spun off from the governmental Israeli Military Industries in 2005. According to the SK Group, IWI firearms are developed in close collaboration with Israel Defense Forces. Some of these weapons have popped up in a series of state-backed instances of violence. A full 37% of the 47,733 firearms that Mexico imported in 2025 were from Israel, while 35% from the United States. A little more than a third of imported firearms, 37%, were destined for police. Although President Sheinbaum said that Israeli weapons were only for police, Mexico's ATT report states that 63% were for the military and private civilian uses. And weapons are durable goods, so the impact is cumulative. The 2025 shipment came on top of over 41,000 handguns and 29,000 rifles that Israel exported to Mexico from 2015 through 2024, according to prior ATT reports. I mean, the whole maquiladora sector, for me, I feel kind of embarrassed that I didn't put that like two and two together, you know? In 2015, the year after police in Guerrero State participated in the oh yeah. I'm a little embarrassed right now that I have forgotten about this. In 2015, the year after police in Guerrero State participated in the disappearance of 43 student teachers from Ayotzinapa Normal School, Ayotzinapa Normal School, IWI exported 796 Galil rifles and 516 pistols to police in Guerrero, according to receipts from those purchases obtained by Stop U.S. Arms to Mexico through public information requests to the Mexican Army. The Mexican Army is the sole authorized importer of firearms, which it sells to police forces and some private buyers. IWI also sold 1,276 firearms to Sinaloa state officials from 2018 to 2020, including over 700 assault rifles. In 2024, the IWI sold 181 assault rifles to the Sinaloa state government. During these periods, Sinaloa security officials were colluding with the Sinaloa cartel, according to a recent indictment by the U.S. Justice Department. I mean, the Sinaloa cartel is one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world and has transformed the Mexican state of Sinaloa into a geographic epicenter of the global narcotics trade. From its home base in Sinaloa, the cartel has worked with criminal elements around the world, cocaine producers, and distribution. When the U.S. is the one making these claims, it's a bit ironic, but what I will say is, regardless of the backroom deals, in the drug trade, the death toll is inexcusable. Yeah, no, for reals, AJ. Shout out to Alex Avina, who studies Guerrero, and has other vids discussing Israeli weapons in Latin America, choppers, border surveillance, police training, and updated techniques. Yeah, I think that's a long overdue conversation that we should just have. I understand if Alex is intimidated by, somebody who has been such a decorated Afro-Latino Mexican historian, such as myself. In fact, I don't even claim that. Other people call me that. That's how, just influential such a cultural impact I have in this scene that, I don't even got to say it. Other people say it for me. I'm an innovator like that. A shootout between Mexican soldiers and municipal police. No, I would love to have Alex on literally anytime. A shootout between Mexican soldiers and municipal police in the city of Acambe, the state of Mexico, last November resulted in the death of one police officer, 4 police and soldiers wounded, a dozen local police officers arrested, and the seizure of 3 Israeli Galil assault rifles and other weapons. The firefight lasted about an hour after Acambe municipal police attacked and stole a pickup truck. Oh, attacked and stole a pickup truck, according to the press reports. The Encambe police chief had been sentenced the same week as the shootout to life imprisonment for extortion and forced disappearances. The Encambe police purchased 3 Galil rifles together with 3 Israeli-made pistols in September 2023, according to receipts of the sales obtained by the stop U.S. arms to Mexico. No. Portions of the receipt for IWI weapons sold to Encambe local police in Mexico State in 2023, who used them to attack other Mexican police and soldiers in November 2025, which is right here. In addition to firearms imported from Israel, IWI firearms have also been trafficked illegally to or within Mexico. These are principally assault rifles that are desired by criminal groups, as well as more common pistols. At least 78 Israeli Galil rifles have been seized by the Mexican Army, Sedena, since 2011. Since 2010, wow. Including another 3 assault rifles in one day in Villahermosa, Tabasco, in May of last year, according to information we obtained from Sedena through a public information request. From 2015 to July 2024, 213 weapons produced by IWI and its predecessors were recovered in Mexico and submitted to the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for tracing. Martin Hernandez, thank you so much for the laughing disco for 250 joules. I appreciate it, brother. Some of these IWI weapons seized in Mexico were traced to purchases in the United States, where Israeli guns are imported and sold on the civilian market. Since the beginning of 2024, 62 IWI firearms recovered at the crime scene in Mexico were traced to U.S. purchases, principally in Texas, Arizona, and California, according to data released by the ATF to stop U.S. arms to Mexico. I wasn't expecting this much data. I mean, I sincerely appreciate it. Yeesh, look at that. I mean, this is a real problem here. I mean, yeah, the U.S. is going to do what the U.S. does. Yes, the Zionist entity. Discussing. But can we take a moment? 5,754 of these slimy, greasy Italian weapons are making it into La Patria, into El Tri, into Mexico. Think of all the lives that are being lost because of Italy's disgusting weapon arms manufacturing. I mean, I think this is probably an undercount in the tens, if not millions. Knowing what we know about Italy. No, but in all seriousness, my anti-Italian sentiment. Yeah, I mean, this speaks volumes, especially the fact that, hey, yes, this is from 2025, but, you know, as we read earlier, this is consistent regardless of whatever, you know, parties in control of the presidency. Inconsistent reporting on weapons. In 2025, Mexico imported 5,032 rocket launchers from the Czech Republic, according to the ATT report, reflecting a kind of arms race between illegal trafficking to cartels and legal imports to government forces. Curiously, Italy's ATT report states that it exported 20,000 handguns to Mexico in 2025. Although Mexico reported less than a third of that number. What the fuck did I just say? What the fuck? I did not read this prior. What the fuck did I say? I knew it. I knew they were the real problem. I knew every single time if there's an issue in the world, I say it's not the Jews, it is the Italians. It's these Catholics. Not. I'm just saying, if you're so evil that a bullet is willing to bend time and space in order to finish a job, that's not me. That's the universe. That's a higher power speaking out against you. Worse, keeping it easy. He was a Catholic. Hey, bro, I've been saying we got to bring back anti-Catholic sentiment in this country. As a devoted Catholic myself. Where are we at? Similarly, Jamaica reported to the ATT that it imported 5,000 firearms from Mexico, a transaction that doesn't appear in Mexico's report at all. On the other hand, Mexico reported importing 6,242 Glock pistols from the United States in 2025. Yet such pistols exports from Glock's production facility in Georgia did not appear in the US Customs trade records. Since it is unlikely Mexico will report Glock gun imports that didn't occur, Mexico's ATT report may be more complete and accurate than other states, at least in some respects. That's an interesting case to be made. But I mean, I could say maybe they were just like hedging. You know what I mean? In terms of like, well, since we're undercounting certain weapons, then we have to overcount or pretend that we are purchasing it from like legitimate sources or something. I don't know. The full and precise scope of Israeli weapons exports and Mexican imports can be difficult to assess. According to experts in the small arms trade, ATT reports submitted by importing and exporting countries frequently contain contradictory information. See, that is wild, bro. Like, that this is a consistent issue, that it is frequent enough for them to say, hey, you know what? This type of like mismanaging occurs so much that it's just part of it. So this is what I mean. Like when we talk about conspiracy theories about like, you know, who really runs the cartels, and I'm like, it's the fucking CIA. When we talk about, you know, weapon sellings and the black market and all this stuff, it's like all these governments are involved. They're all doing it. They all benefit from chaos. The experts cite diverse reasons, errors, differences in definitions, departure, and arrival dates that cross over years, reporting of components versus whole firearms, and other factors. Which I think, look, I think these are all legitimate reasons for some type of bureaucratic mismanagement. But I will say that, like, I think that should be in the reports. I think at the end of the day, the numbers should add up. Despite these discrepancies, it is clear that Israel has joined the United States as one of the principal suppliers of weapons to Mexico's police and military, reflecting an alliance of forces that employ those weapons for impunity. And again, this is by John Lindsay Poland. I mean, there you have it, man. Disappointing, but unsurprising. We'll read. Let's watch this next. 158.44. Give me one sec, y'all. Because we're going to come back to this section here. 44. All right. Oh, can't wait for this. Oh, look at these just, oh my gosh. Aren't we just going to have a swell time? Aren't we just going to have a wonderful time covering this, guys? Gals, pals, buddies, friends of ours. We're just going to have just the most rocking time. Man. Give me a sec. I need to grab some electrolytes. I started getting a little comfortable and being like, I don't need that, but like, a second thought, I kind of do. Low key, I kind of do. I kind of have to like start being consistent with that at least. Let me pull this up here. What did I want to pull up? We'll do this. Oh yeah, we'll just go to the history and what did I pull up last time? What did I pull last time? Oh no, last time I pulled up the Black Liberation Media clip. I'm not gonna do that again. I don't know if you want to call me out and be like, hey, that's rude. Y'all need to let me know. Because this is what I'm about to do right now. I was watching this earlier and I thought it was a great conversation. Y'all should watch this when you get the chance.
Socialism and communism.
That religion, but at the same time, I'm finding it difficult to
I'll be right back,
reconcile
Joe.
with the question of human rights, for example, individual rights, stuff like that. And then I think when Gramsci spoke about how we deal with
Hit the like button,
historical
hit the like button,
erasure,
all that
how
good
we
stuff.
deal with historical distortion about the self, right? When Fanon spoke about the self, he spoke about how colonialism really erases the self, not just the self or the sense of the self, but also everything that composes the self. For example, our own history, our own religion, our own belief system, our own understanding of our own civilization. Because when colonialism came, they told us that we didn't have a civilization to inform how we respond to the world, how we live in this world. So even for me, I think it was a journey that I had to go through to understand the self, the Muslim self, and the Malay self, because in Malaysia, our identity is defined by the British, actually. And that definition is embodied in the constitution that is the supreme law of the land. And everyone around me at the time told me that this is a sacred document that I had to uphold, so I cannot question it. And this is the Islam that we have to defend, because the other forms of Islam are not the true Islam. So for me, I was struggling a lot, even when I was a liberal, because at the time I was also doing legal aid work. So when I was doing legal aid work, I was providing pro bono services to poor people who were in court, who couldn't get legal representation, who were facing the death penalty, who were facing jail sentence because they stole to feed their children. And when I saw that, I started questioning myself, why is my faith so devoid of all these questions? Why is my faith, because I don't see people around me, Muslims around me, responding to all these questions, because they keep talking about liberalism, about individual rights, but never the class aspect of the world that we live in. And then, of course, I tried looking for people, because when you feel isolated as a Muslim, when you cannot relate to other Muslims, even though you understand that that's this concept as the Ummah, where, we are all together in this, we are the same community, we should relate to one another. But at the same time, I feel so isolated from the majority of them. And then I started looking for people to make sense of this isolation and also the contradictions that I had to overcome, looking at all this notion of freedom, and at the same time people are denied the most basic rights because they're poor. So I found Hamza Yusuf Hansen. I don't know if you are familiar with this figure. He's American, he's a white convert, he's very popular among Sufi circles. And I listened to his speeches, and again I was like, why are they just talking about the self? They individualize the religion. It's as if they live on a different planet. While the world is burning, they're not at all responding to that world that is burning. And the world that is burning also, the fire is also consuming not just non-Muslims, but also the majority of Muslims, like the Palestinians, the Iraqis, for example. And then, I could not relate to all these people, who are so popular. They have their own following. And then I stumbled upon Malcolm X, because you mentioned Malcolm X, right? I stumbled upon Malcolm X, and immediately I could relate to him. And he was the one who first raised my consciousness as a human being, as a Muslim, as a woman, as a human being. And because of him, I started reading about the role of religion in anti-colonial struggles, and he led me to understanding my own self as a person, as a Muslim, as a woman in this country that was once colonized. And I started understanding that, oh, wow, this is something that is so powerful. It's just that many people are not talking about it because the power that it has, it makes people feel like, oh, you have to confront something that is so big. And it's not easy because everyone around you is not going to entertain you when it comes to all this question about imperialism, about war.
Shout out to Millennials for Killing Capitalism, Jay, and this amazing conversation. And just to make something clear, like, I'm going to drop this link to this conversation today. If ever, it doesn't matter who, whether it's Millennials, whether it's Black Liberation Media, Dr. Ball, whoever it is, like, hey, like, don't be playing my stuff if you're not going to be like commenting over it. Totally get it. But I also want more people to like, and I know we share a lot of overlapping audience and they're larger channels than me, but it's like these conversations, man, like, understand, to me, it's weird being able to like have, conversations with these people privately, because it's like, damn, like, I've been a fan and I'm over here like asking you the dumbest questions about Akira. BT, that is great. BT, oh man, I hate the fact that we just can't use AI. Ain't nothing wrong with working tirelessly. This is so like, this is like a fake. Did you hear the joke? And this is like, oh my, like, she's high right now. She didn't even smoke. She did not need to smoke today. She knew she was going to get all the high from AOC. All right, let's get to this. You're welcome in advance, everyone. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. AI sympathizer confirmed. No, I just wish I could like manipulate people's essence. No, I don't know where I was going with that joke. All right, let's go.
We are back, and I am so happy to be joined now by Representative
had to do that,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, honestly, I kind of was 50-50 on it, and I just went with it.
This is the independent media. This is the independent media, everyone. This is what independent journalism, independent political commentary is today, 2026. Where you start off immediately, like fucking tongue deep between them cheeks, bro. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely no self-respect. immediately letting you know, as an audience member, and to Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, this is going to be the easiest conversation. It's not even a fucking interview. Not even going to call it an interview. This is the easiest conversation you're ever going to have in your career. I'm already going to call you the fucking president. That's how much of a fucking fan I am. That's how much my identity, my essence, my being, the character that I play online is devoted to kissing your ass. This isn't going to be a how-to. I mean, come on, bro.
How do I reach these kids?
I don't know how. I don't know how. When the inbreeding hits.
Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, honestly, I kind of was 50-50 on it and I just went with it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you. And
Microaggression immediately. Look, whenever I hear somebody say, I'm doing well, I immediately hate you. I immediately fucking hate you. Because it's like, I know that you think you're better than me by responding to that in a grammatically correct manner. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Yeah, you know, whatever. I'm all right. I'm doing well. Is like, you know, I can't stand that shit. I cannot stand that.
I know you're obviously not going to be talking about your ambitions for higher office, so I'm making a little bit of a joke, but have you been surprised to see, you know, how excited people are when there's these polling numbers showing this buzz, as they say, about you and your candidacy?
Yeah, I do. I am surprised by it. You know, I think sometimes people would talk about it, and I was always candidly like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
But then some of these polls came out, and I'm like, what is happening? I was in
some of these polls that like my management team, you know, and my entire team are working on and putting my name out there. It's just so crazy that like, yeah, like it's just wild. Who knew that my team was doing this behind the scenes to make sure that my name is out there? The fakeness of it all. And again, if you're, you know, speaking to a real journalist, Emma Vigeland has what, a bachelor's in journalism? My propaganda team, exactly. Like, this is embarrassing, bro. Like, this is something that you show in journalism 101 of what not to do. And that's all I'm saying. This is a perfect example of how not to conduct yourself as a journalist when you're interviewing a person with the power that AOC has, with the influence that AOC has, the cultural cachet that AOC has. You fucking name it. This is not an interview. This is a fucking promo. That's what it is.
I was in Memphis, and Justin Pearson, you know, we were campaigning for him, and there were some folks actually that had driven out from Arkansas, and they were talking about like the straw polls out there. And I'm like, I don't, you know, but I think people are pissed off.
Yeah, right. People are pissed off.
Why is that funny? People are suffering. People are desperate. People are in agony. What the fuck? People's backs are up against the wall. So that's good for me? So that means they'll take a chance on just a small town girl, a bartender from the Bronx? I mean, come on. What is this, man? This is sadistic. Man.
People are pissed off.
Yeah, right. People are
know?
pissed off. And I want to talk about what people are pissed about as well. Specifically the data centers. I mean, you mentioned Memphis and your trip down to the south. You went to Georgia as well. You know, I was kind of going back and looking at stuff from 2018, 8 years ago when you just won your primary. And like, you know, one of the through lines in your career has been environmental policy because there's this trajectory from the Green New Deal that you supported early on to now your bill that is a bicameral bill with Senator Sanders.
Now remember, it was oh man, I just had his name in the what was this? Who invented the Green New Deal? What's his name? Come on. What's his name? I butchered the joke, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. The bald dude. Van Jones. Thanks for nothing, chat. No, remember, it was Van Jones that created the Green New Deal. Don't forget that. Never allow these white women, these brown women, to take away a proud black revolutionary man's ideas.
About this data center moratorium. How do you envision the future of climate policy? And over the past 8 years, has anything changed in what you've seen that has altered your perspective at all?
Yeah, you know, I think about that time too, and a lot of our environmental work, I think, has also been reflective of the broader populist work that we've been doing. There are different ways that people enter a climate and environmental fight.
This interview was so softball that like the directions that it takes are honestly meaningless. Like there's no real substance to this conversation. What I will say is she does make a solid point about vaccines that I'm excited to cover and see your reaction to. But there's like no real substance to this conversation. I'll let you know that right now.
Some of it is from a more scientific perspective. They're seeing the numbers and the data on climate change and trying to keep below, well, you know, 8 years ago, trying to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now we're in a much more grave condition than that. And so there are people that are brought to it from a global climate change, carbon-based perspective. And really what made a Green New Deal bill was three things. One, an aggressive decarbonization target, ideally within 10 years. Two, an economically populist platform that meant that any Green New Deal style bill had to create thousands or millions of union track jobs. And the third was an environmental justice and racial and economic component, which is acknowledgement that the communities that are going to be hardest hit are sacrifice zones. And so we need to approach legislation that prioritizes the protection of the communities that are going to be hardest hit by the climate crisis.
Yeah. And do you think that when it's been hitting people's pocketbooks and their electricity bills in the way that it has, that it's changed the conversation? Now people understand that climate policy is very much economic policy as well?
I think so. As we started that effort, because I represent the Bronx, you know, I represent a district that the year I got elected before redistricting, you know, the majority of my district was in Queens and the minority was in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. Now the majority of my district's from the Bronx and the minority of it is in Queens. And
Again, I've never been out to the West Coast really like that. My question is I feel like her seat is more secure now, right? than it was before. Right? So before, when it was heavily more in Queens, it weighed heavier on Queens. Now it weighs heavier on the Bronx. You would think, you would assume, not that she was at risk of losing her seat regardless, that she could take more risks now. I doubt it, but something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. Just to kind of limit the excuses that she's going to make for herself.
One of the things that I did early on is that in the Bronx, it's a less ideological place in terms of our electorate. It's obviously very deep blue,
Right.
but it is very working class and also racially diverse, and like all of these things stacked on one another. And so one of the things that we had to do was really deep canvas the community to talk about climate issues in a way that actually show up in our life. So I think, to answer your question, it's less about connecting climate to these issues, and it's more about talking about the specific ways that this is an environmental issue in a way that's not tree hugging and
Yes.
academic and out of touch. So 8 years ago, it was me doing teach-ins in public housing saying the lead in our water, the sky-high asthma rates that we deal with, that is environmental. And this is directly contributed to with the gas infrastructure that we have in our public housing that is leaching into our air, and all of the other environmental issues that are going on. And so with the data center fight, I think that it's the similar analog. People are seeing how all of this is wrecking their health, wrecking their communities, and it makes environmental issues not academic, but very real in people's everyday lives.
Yeah, there was a poll from Data for Progress that showed that 63% of voters support pausing construction of AI data centers. So your bill is very much a popularist bill, if you will.
If you will. Chat, I want you to guess, because so far it's been twice. How many times they say populist, populism, populist, you name it, like whatever form of pop that you like, that you enjoy, compared to how many times they say the word socialist. And I'll even do you a favor. Throw in democratic socialist. I didn't like the mods. And so that's why it's so frustrating when I tell you, stop like respecting these people enough to, identify them the way that they choose to temporarily at the moment, depending on what's popular, identify themselves as such. They're Democrats. That's all you should call them. Democrats. They have this new obsession with populism. If you're a socialist, you shouldn't be concerned about populism. Honestly, populism should be beneath you. Populism is too rudimentary. It has no substance to it. But yeah, they absolutely want to adopt whatever the new buzzword is. I mean, why is this funny? Why is this humorous? I don't understand. Where's the joke? And I'm not saying women can't be funny. I'm saying that they're not. No, what I'm getting at is like, why would this make you chuckle? I don't understand it.
So your bill is very much a popularist bill, if you will. But
do we need like, I don't know, man.
I mean, what's also, I think you can connect it to is the Iran war and how gas prices have been impacted by that too. So there's a way to, I think, as we've talked about, framing Gaza around, as Abdullah Sayed has done very well, and you just recently endorsed him, framing Gaza like we shouldn't be spending this amount of money, we should be investing it in our communities. That's also how you can connect that foreign policy issue to environmental racism and environmental investment in this country.
This doesn't work. And this is why I've been saying we need a cultural revolution to move away from the self-centered, egotistical, individualistic combative, hostile mindset that Christian white nationalists have imposed upon us. If simply saying, hey, they're sending all your taxpayer money for war, for decimating children, for brutalizing these populations, instead of funding your schools, providing you health care. If that's all it was, if that's all it took, that's been their fucking line, regardless of the subject. Democratic politicians have been saying that for fucking decades. It does not work. Now, maybe they're trying to like lay the claim that, well, if Zorhan demonstrates that, like, yeah, you know, these fucking city-owned stores are a game changer, maybe that'll get people to understand through that fucking argument about taxes being used appropriately. But I don't think so. I think what is required is an education that highlights the capitalist aspect of it all, the reality of it, and to make people learn how to fucking hate the system and the institutions that allow this type of carnage and the desensitization that, you know, a lot of them feel, and the normalization of carnage. That's the wake-up call that we need to be pushing. Not, oh, actually, your taxes could be going to further help transportation. It's not. It isn't. Just stop pretending.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's about talking about these issues in many different ways that are majoritarian. And there are ways that we can frame these debates that talk about why we come to these conclusions from a moral perspective. I think we always have to be making three arguments at the same time for any issue. A moral argument, an economic argument, and also a political argument. And when we're able to argue for something in a chorus of all of those three, then we're able to build a majoritarian coalition to actually win on them.
Building a majoritarian coalition is important, and I know that you, I'm sure, share some of my frustration with efforts that felt like they were narrowing the Democratic coalition, the focus on affluent suburbanites over a more working class coalition. But something that I don't think gets talked enough about is where Democrats lost credibility was on the issue of democracy. And when you say majoritarian bills and things like that, that's a way to demonstrate some sort of democratic responsiveness. But on the genocide in Gaza, many Democrats still aren't listening to their voters, although it's a lot of progress in the House with the 103 Democrats that voted to block that $3 billion shipment. But Gaza, Biden running again.
Question. Do you all think that Emma Vigeland here is going to bring up the fact that AOC was not willing to sign a bill simply because it involved Marjorie Taylor Greene? Meanwhile, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib were willing to sign that. Do you think Emma Vigeland's going to bring up the fact, of course, what we all know and love, the fact that AOC lied about the Harris-Biden administration working tirelessly for a ceasefire? Of course not. Absolutely not. But the only reason she has to add this portion here is because she still has to kiss ass to the rest of the Democratic Party establishment. So it's what you have with these rad libs is you have these critiques and these critical positions that are immediately folded under the slightest of pressure or access, like AOC coming into their studio. Has she been in studio before? I know she's been interviewed by them a couple of times, but is this the first time that AOC has come into studio? Let's see, AOC, the Majority Report. I mean, they already have this shit up here. Let me search interview, my bad. This was a year ago. Not in studio. Who the fuck is this? No, wait, hold on. Oh, okay. I thought this was the the military producer that they have there. 6 years ago, not in studio either. So yeah, I think this is the first time she's in studio, if I'm not mistaken. Access journalism, it's what it's all about.
Again, when a lot of people wanted a more open primary process, like, these are choices by the Democrats that box out the voters and make them feel unheard. And so when Kamala Harris was going around and talking about democracy with a banner behind her, they didn't have the credibility that they needed to fight this fascist threat. And I'm curious what you think about that and how the party can be more responsive and demonstrate through action democracy.
Again, what a fucking coward. Because the problem here is that the reason why AOC lied and the DNC about them working tirelessly for a ceasefire, the reason why they asked her to do that, why she was willing to do that, is because that's the role that she is playing, is the one that grants them legitimacy, the one that gives them street cred, whatever you want to call it, the one that can bring trust from especially the younger generation of voters back to the Democratic Party. That is her job, that is her role, that is her position for a ceasefire. Here it is.
She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed.
I mean, it looks like she's on that good shit, bro. Those eyes are fucking...
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
Absolutely fucking soulless. There's nothing there. There is nothing there. If we have spirits in us, if we have souls within us, it's not here. It's gone. She knows what she's doing. Does this look like a happy human being? Does this look like somebody that has integrity? Any semblance of honor, whatever the fuck that is? Any principles? A fucking spine? She knows what she's doing here. If there's a hell, she signed her fucking ticket straight to it because of this. This is a face you make when you have officially aided and abetted in genocide. Emma Vigeland is asking about the Democratic Party winning back trust from its voters. They sent AOC out there at the DNC to steal that trust. And instead of asking AOC, hey, why did you betray our trust for you? She's trying to make it this broader conversation where AOC is not held accountable for her fucking lying. I mean, look. Where are we at here? See if I still have this up. Yeah, here it is.
Humanity. Talking about the shared humanity, I would have much preferred for her to do that
Then lie.
than to not be, than to repeat the Biden administration line about the ceasefire.
That line.
Matt Legg literally says, then to lie. And Emma Vigeland says, yeah, to lie.
Much preferred for her to do that
Then lie.
than to not be, than to repeat the Biden administration line about the
But
ceasefire.
that line too, in particular, working tirelessly, is literally the exact words that Harris uses every time she's confronted with this, and it is
and Biden too.
And it's the thing is that there is a even if I was to accept that premise, there is a willful refusal to use the leverage that would make it a lot less tiring.
So you have the majority report. Sam Cedar, the boss, the owner, his employees, Emma Vigeland and Matt Leck in the background as a producer. And they all acknowledge that AOC has lied, that AOC has spread the same talking points, the same fucking genocidal propaganda as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. After this, she was on the show, not in person, but on the show, and they refused to ask her. They refused to ask her why she lied about Harris Biden working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Now she's in fucking studio, and she still refused to ask her this question.
I mean, you know, you can, the bottom line is, it's one thing to say, like, we're working this, you know, in the most inefficient and most ineffective way possible, but we're doing it a lot.
We're going up a hill on a bike and we're using the first gear. Why don't you just switch to the higher gear?
With the brake, too.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And she also centered the hostages, again, this is just copy and paste, as opposed to like the reality of what the Israeli government is doing, which is sacrificing the hostages for genocide. And
So why not ask her that? Why not literally say, hey, why are you, pushing this narrative? Why did you push that narrative? Instead, you're calling her president already. Instead, you're already calling her president when she hasn't apologized. She hasn't walked that back. She hasn't even explained herself. Because the so-called independent media is unwilling to ask her that. What is the point of having an independent media, a lefty independent media, if you can't ask a simple fucking question like, why did you lie? At the DNC of all places. It wasn't like it was during an interview. It wasn't like it was during a fucking campaign thing, a town hall. It was at the fucking DNC. And they all acknowledged it. And there's a second time that she's on the majority report. And they still haven't asked her this.
I'm shocked to see when she came on the House floor a few months ago and said this is genocide and had strong language. This is a very different tactic that she's taking, and they kept cutting to Kathy Hochul in the middle of her speech. Maybe she wants to run for governor, maybe she wants to take Schumer's seat. But I think that we're at a point now where we should be observing the fact that she's making some moves away from the left when she first got elected in 2018.
Another indicator of that is saying middle class when working class should be the term that a socialist elected uses. So, she's making the
say it a good amount in the speech, working class, but that's the Harris.
I would remove middle class from my vocabulary, but she's on a different trajectory right now, and good luck.
Yeah.
They said good luck to her. Yeah. Good luck coming on the show so we give you a softball interview. Is that what you mean by good luck?
Yeah, I mean, I think about all, you brought up a lot of different points. One is, on this Biden issue, it was interesting watching it happen in real time, Mm-hmm. What I find very interesting about that moment and the people who talk about that time is that I think that some, not all, but some of the Democrats that are most aggressive about getting their narrative out about how they wanted to push Biden out were also the same Democrats that were most aggressive about closing the wagons on a primary process when we had a chance to have that in a presidential election.
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of them are compensating because, and you hear sometimes there's these like consultant class and like some of these folks that want, who backed Biden when it was time to step down as like some sort of litmus test.
Gotcha. Okay.
But those folks were part of the establishment that were closing the ranks around Biden before a primary process would have even started.
So you're saying these people just wanted to be the decider, to use a Bushism?
Well, I think it's not just to be a decider, but they saw at the end how unpopular their actions, the conclusion that their actions had led to and how unpopular it was. So then it became a race to distance themselves from it.
Gotcha.
Okay, wait. Even this, no pushback. Emma Vigland's trying to understand. She goes, "Oh, you mean this?" Like no pushback at all. But this is this really is incredible. Because what AOC here is doing is she's saying, well, the people that ended up, realizing that Joe Biden was not going to win, they're just political opportunists. They were trying to distance themselves for not allowing us to have, a primary. But here's the thing. You could have fucking ran. You could have announced your campaign for the presidency. No one was fucking stopping you. You would have made fucking waves. You would have had a lot of support. Again, my criticism of Rashida Tlaib, excuse me, I'm racist. My criticism of, Rashida Tlaib, sorry. Not as racist as I thought. And the whole uncommitted movement. And again, shout out to the Good Shepherd Collective who, did great analysis on it. If you really wanted to make change and make a difference, she would have ran as an independent and said, I will drop out if you adopt, a ceasefire policy at a minimum. She didn't do that. Instead, she, got behind the uncommitted movement that her sister was the head of. Rashida Tlaib's sister was the one in charge of the uncommitted movement. It was a fucking work. It was a distraction. It's why even at the DNC, they were on their fucking hands and knees outside praying, begging, pleading for the most minimal tokenization, the most minimal representation, saying you get to pick the fucking speaker, you get to fucking edit the speech and all that. Absolutely fucking disgusting. Compradors, no different than the fucking Palestinian Authority if they were given the power and the opportunity. So AOC is right now trying to say like, oh, these are political opportunists. Well, doesn't that highlight your lack of political gamesmanship? That the rest of the fucking wolves said, oh shit, we need to abandon the fucking corpse. And you and your Zionist fucking elder over here, Bernie Sanders, decided to stick it out. With good old Joe. Look at this. Looks like a fucking telenovela, way. This looks like, hold on, it's right here. One day soon, I will own the entire hacienda. Once this old man dies. It's so fucking preposterous. It's embarrassing, bro. Like, look, she looks fucking evil in this. Look at this shit. Even the fit looks like she's like an evil fucking colonizer shit. This is like some colonizer ass fit right here. Am I wrong? She's just missing that hat. What's that weird hat that they would wear? That like Europeans, the khaki hats. Like they wear them in Africa. What do you call those hats? Oh, these. She just needs this, the safari hat. And like, holy shit, am I wrong? Add a safari hat to this and tell me she's not a fucking villain. Look at this shit. He's like, I can be president again, right? And she's like, sí. Yes, you can. Sí se puede. Yeah, the Tarzan topper. Yes, exactly. But what do you mean by that? Hold on, Jay. Hold on. What?
So if you run the tape back, right, like there was a moment when the press was asking, do you think Biden should have a primary challenger? And there were some Democrats, many, if not most, at the time that were saying, no, I support him, etc. And there were some that were open. Like I was pretty, I mean, I will never poop because of the way I got here.
You
can't
defeated an incumbent.
yeah, I defeated an incumbent. So I just feel on principle, I'm never going to say we shouldn't have a primary.
I'm sorry. What was AOC's position on Che Ose? What was her position on Che Ose? I'm sorry. Shaq, can you remind me? Exclusive. AOC says Jeffries' primary challenge, not a good idea. I thought this wasn't in her nature. Rep. Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez signaled in an interview with Axios on Monday that she would not support New York City Council member Che Ose in a primary challenge against House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. You see, this is strange because I don't have a degree in journalism. This is weird because I don't even have 10K subscribers on my main channel. Subscribe if you haven't. So, like, how is it that my working class brown ass over here is able to just remember and recall these things and bring them up when a politician is fucking lying in an interview? What special skills do I have? I mean, y'all heard me read English. It ain't that fucking great. So what is it about me that I'm able to do something so simple that Emma Vigeland is incapable of doing, or is it that she's unwilling to do so? Look at her. She's like, yeah, you're the best. You're just so swell. I've always wanted an amiga. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Arroz con habichuela. I've heard it's delicious. Like, god damn, bro. Why it matters. Ocasio-Cortez is one of the several high-profile progressives distancing from Ose's potential run, arguing that it is a distraction from New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's victory. A distraction, not a fucking opportunity to continue the momentum, right? Progressive Change Campaign Committee head Adam Green told Politico it is not the right moment to launch a primary challenge against Hakeem Jeffries. Mamdani also appeared to discourage his fellow Democratic Socialists of America members on Monday. I believe that there are many ways right here in New York City to both deliver an affordability agenda and take on the authoritarian administration in the White House, Mamdani told reporters of OSE. In other words, sit the fuck down and stay in your place. What she's saying, Ocasio-Cortez told Axios during a brief interview in the U.S. Capitol, that she was not aware that Ose was challenging Jeffries. Oh, the old, what do you, Ose, Che Ose, what is that? No, thank you. But if you're gonna get some, sure, with oat milk, please. But she added, I certainly don't think a primary challenge to the leader is a good idea right now. Ocasio-Cortez demurred on other races, declining to weigh in on whether she would support New York City Comptroller Brad Lander if he runs against Rep. Dan Goldman. Yeah. So weird. I thought it wasn't in her nature, though. What?
I just feel on principle, I'm never going to say we shouldn't have a primary.
On principle. On principle. And look at the laughs.
Because of the way I got here, I can't
defeated an incumbent.
Yeah, I defeated an incumbent. So I just feel on principle, I'm never going to say we shouldn't have a primary. But a lot of the Democrats who said, no, we're sticking with him at that time were the same that I think oftentimes are very loud about that litmus test after the fact. So, but I do agree with you. I think that voters and the electorate, I think there's this tension, especially at that time, between what the establishment thought could defeat Donald Trump and the mood that the electorate was actually in. Mm-hmm. And I think when we fast forward to today, the reckoning that we're seeing in some of these primaries, is that what is different between Trump 1 and Trump 2 is that I think your median Democratic voter desperately wants to do everything to get Trump out of power and get Republicans out of power. And in Trump 1, they trusted the establishment to do that.
Yeah.
And in Trump 2, they do not. And
one more for the road, because this is one of my favorite ones. No one ever talks about this. From Politico, Representative Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez privately signaled to Democrats that she might no longer back congressional primary challenges to her colleagues, according to 3 people familiar with her remarks. The question had been raised when the New York progressive made her case in a steering and policy committee meeting for why she should be the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee. It would mark a departure for the outspoken progressive who came to Congress by primarying a Democratic leader and has also backed challenges to other sitting lawmakers since then. Never asked on whether or not that was true. No follow-up on that. She ended up losing that bid for the seat anyways. But somebody that's willing to say, hey, I'm willing to play ball, no longer threaten your guys' positions of power. I think that's something that's worthy of questioning, no?
we are seeing how that is playing out in real time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Bernie endorsements, he's batting, over 50% at this point? Mm-hmm. And
they're still praising their National Socialist Zionist hero, Bernie Sanders. Wow. And she's over here like, I can't wait till that guy don't fucking dies too. So I could be the fucking queen.
He doesn't seem to give a crap what anyone has to say about it. He's lost patience with some of that. But yeah, I mean, I think then putting aside Biden for a second, just something like the data center moratorium is, as you say, a majoritarian bill. It's responsive to the mood. And I wonder on the inside if you can shed light on why so many of your colleagues are resistant to that. There's almost like a kind of distaste for the messiness of populism that should be anathema to the Democratic Party right now, in my view, because we're fighting a real threat, this fascist in office.
Majoritarian, populist, populistic, I don't know what other fucking phrases they've used. Have you heard socialist yet? Have you heard that? No, they're not doing this for that branding exercises. During this branding exercise, no need to say socialist. Gotcha. Because what they're trying to do is make sure that their audience starts pulling away from that word. It's a phase, it's a fad. They'll get over it.
I mean, the answer is obvious. It's money.
Yes. Yeah. I was lobbing that up for you.
Yeah. In the past couple cycles, when you rightfully, there's a ton of concentration on APAC spending. And also, if you look at the top 3 spenders, it's APAC, AI, crypto.
Right.
AI being the largest singular source of campaign financing, not just to people like Donald Trump in many cases, but oftentimes in many House and Senate political campaigns. These folks know, and we look, you go back to 2012, you go back to any other kind of cycle. Like when we throw back to the Great Recession, and during that time, it was Wall Street, it was financial firms. Now it's AI that are kind of the top contributors to our political system. And they know that the game is that you need to bankroll both political parties in order to get your agenda passed. And so the good news is that in the moratorium, the people, I do think that the revolt that is happening in these communities is very palpable and powerful, and it is working because the folks that are signing on to the AI moratorium are not just your expected lefty members of Congress. We are seeing Democrats that are more moderate sign on to the moratorium because the outrage among the electorate is also cutting across ideological lines as well. And so I think that there's, despite the fact that there's a lot of resistance and people not signing on to it, there is also increasingly across ideological support for it too.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your strategy and how that's evolved, because
I mean, AI is a new, like, easy fucking dunk, man. It's a new easy one. That's what she's saying. Hey, everyone agrees on this. Let's just go for that and lock in on it. In other words, let's not challenge our voters, to move left. And God forbid you challenge your political elected officials to move left.
it's safe to say you've become a bit of a fundraising juggernaut. And that gives you this war chest that can help vulnerable Democrats when they need it. And that's valuable for you when you need to ingratiate yourself to members, because you've spoken about how you were treated when you got into Congress in 2018. A lot has changed since then. And on our show, we've talked a lot about the importance of building an inside game to pair with outside pressure campaigns. It feels like you've been very conscious in trying to do that. How conscious has that strategy been for you, building power internally?
I think it's very conscious. My motivation is winning.
Same. I love to win.
Bro. What the fuck is wrong with you? When a politician says, my motivation is winning, you shouldn't be like, same, dude. That's fucking crazy. We're just the same, brah. I'm all about winning. That Mamba mentality, bro. You should be like, your motivation isn't like the people. Your motivation isn't like helping others. My motivation is more power. That's translation. When a politician says my motivation is winning, they're saying my motivation is to gain more power. And so your response as a journalist conducting an interview should not be like, oh, that's fucking wild, bro. You and me, we're just the same. I mean, we're like besties now, aren't we? We should hang out sometime. It shouldn't be that.
Is winning.
Same. I love to win.
I'm pretty,
I love to win. Because you're the fucking loser of your family. Remember, both of Emma Vigland's parents are corporate lawyers. And her sister, guess what? You think her sister's a fucking glorified YouTuber? No. Her sister's also a fucking corporate lawyer working with her pops. So what does that make Emma Vigland? The fucking loser child of the family. And so she needs to have access to people like AOC in order to feel good about herself and say, oh, you know what? Maybe I disappointed my parents. Maybe I'm not as smart, as hardworking, as intelligent as my sister, but I know AOC. And earlier people were saying that, oh, she's doing it for the money. She's a little rich kid. Her fucking high school costs more than your life. Right? So what I'm getting at, it's not about the money. It's about the access. It's about the bragging rights to say, oh yeah, AOC came into studio because of me. That's why she does this. Same thing with Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker was born filthy rich. He's a Nepo baby. All those things. And still, he's a sheepdog for the Democratic Party. Why, when you're a multimillionaire, would you need to do that? Well, because you want access. He wants to make sure that in a year from now, he is invited to the VIP party for Zoran Mandani's re-election victory. Or whenever that is. I don't know why I said a year. But that's what they want. Access. Status. They want to be in the fucking rooms. They want to feel like they're important. Their egos are so fragile. They're so fucking pathetic. And their sense of value and being is so meaningless and dependent upon external factors that they will live, die, and sell their fucking souls for this. This is the face a little kid makes. This is sick. This is wrong. This is a fucking adult. What are you doing here? And of course, she's laughing and talking about, oh yeah, like all I care about is winning. But understand, she's laughing and she's probably looking at the chat like, do you see? I was right. You know what she's thinking about? This fucking moment. I don't care if it's DSA watch. I don't care who it is. Look at this shit. Or I don't even care if it's Canary Mission. Nobody forced her to say this dumb shit.
Say like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like we're talking, you know, I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like we're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
As I mean, for the,
I don't know about that. I'm like, that's a. I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
You know, I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like we're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
Fucking pecker ass would laugh and shit.
I mean, for the,
I don't know about that. I'm like, that's a. I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
You know, I've said this before.
Same. I love to win.
I'm pretty, you know, for.
Even if that means supporting a fucking Nazi.
Right about that. And I think that you need a lot of different players on the field, right? When I first got there, you also work with the tools that you have. So when I first got there, I had support from my district. I had the ability to set narrative and be able to communicate. We were building kind of digital tools in a time when that was not common in the Democratic Party, but also didn't have much else. I didn't have internal support.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It was like you were treated with hostility.
Because she said she was going to bring the ruckus. Because she said she was going to be comfortable with being a one-term elected official. Because she was doing these little mock protests at Nancy Pelosi's office when Nancy Pelosi wasn't even there. It's all fucking fugazi. It's all a fucking show. It's a performance.
Yeah, open hostility. And that hostility shows up in ways that you're not even aware of when you get there. There's open hostility, and then there's also secret hostility.
Subterfuge.
Yes. And also, you know, we did not have the fundraising ability at the same. I mean, it was robust, but it wasn't the same as it is now. And we were able to do really powerful things and really punch above our weight with what we had. And we were able to then take that and build on that. And in New York, part of my immediate focus was not just national, but local. We had to change the city's politics because one thing that I don't like to be is alone.
Right.
And I was very aware that I was surrounded by people who wanted to politically kill me. Andrew Cuomo was governor.
Yeah.
You know, a term in, Eric Adams was, you know, elected mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And so our immediate focus, too, was also how do we support down ballot candidates and cultivate the next generation of people that were going to help govern this country over the next 10, 15 years. And so that's when we start getting, you know, that year Julia Salazar got elected in 2018 after my election, because at that time the primaries were separated.
Yep. That was Cynthia Nixon's year, too.
Cynthia Nixon's year.
All right, I was about to jump in. Let's prioritize the mod here. You women, you says, oh, she just told herself with that one. Please elaborate. I want to see we're on the same page here. Okay, well, it's fine. Here's what I'm thinking. AOC just admitted that her role, that her position is to cultivate the next generation of Democratic politicians. That's what she just exposed herself as being. Like, no, my job, my role is to curate the next incumbents, the next establishment. That is her job. That is her role. That's why she was being groomed by Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders. How the fuck are you a politician about change and progress, a democratic socialist, and still aligning with a known open Zionist? How is that normalized? How's that acceptable? How's that ignored? How are we ignoring that? And so all these people, none of them take seriously Zionism whatsoever if they're over here glorifying Bernie Sanders. It's that simple.
You get Jabari Brisport, you get, and then we start putting these pieces on the board. A term later, Zohran Mamdani, assemblyman from Astoria. We've got, so on and so forth. We built the DSA SIO program on the Assembly and Senate level. You have it on the City Council level. And that has also that then creates the political foundation and strength. So you're not just one person totally surrounded, but you take that and you invest it in a political coalition that can help each other.
Yes.
And that's not just local, but it's national as well. And you start to learn how to do that. And then you also make a case as to why this is not just good for your worldview, but also why this is good for the party. And that I would try to make that argument and it would fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
But you don't have to just rely on whether people listen to you or not. You just do it.
Well, and you also you have money, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that talks, and that is, it's like it's a way to combat the deluge of corporate money by having a carrot. Mm-hmm. And then, that I would imagine has made your work life a little bit easier. Has it made it easier for you to get certain agenda items through?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I think we really encountered when I first got there was that it still exists, but there was a really concrete conception in the party that only one kind of candidate can win a swing seat.
Right.
One thing I do want to highlight is like, oh, you got money, or you're a juggernaut, fundraiser. All these things is like, okay, but what have you done with that to really make people uncomfortable with your position of power? Instead, what she has done is use the money that she's raised and given it straight to the Democratic Party to distribute as they see fit. Not all of it, but enough to be like, wait a minute. The incumbent challengers, or the challengers to these incumbents, are now being, opposed or challenged, or their challenges being opposed with money that AOC has raised You have to understand that aspect of it as well.
And it was very conservative, and it was very cookie cutter, and it didn't matter if your swing seat was in Ohio or Nebraska or Pennsylvania. You had to take certain positions. You had to be a certain kind of candidate in order to be considered viable. And so the kind of crumb that I started with was, because at that time we had the largest class since Watergate. So I started to look at all of our frontline candidates. And
hold on, I love this because like the whole squad thing, did they vote as a block? No, of course not. It was all media creation.
I say, you know, are there any here that kind of break the mold in any way? And at that time we had 1, 2, or 3 that were, you know, fit whatever mold was fit, but you'd have one that was on Medicare for all.
Right.
Or you'd have one that was willing to sign on to the Green New Deal resolution. And so what I started to do was max out to those frontliners that were willing in one way or another to take a risk and buck convention. It wasn't just 1 or 2 of those things, but just in general as issues came up. Because I think the thing that's most important for us as a left movement to show is, you know, there's a lot of sticks.
Yeah.
But we need to have really big carrots and say, if you do this and if you take this leap, we will come through for you.
If you take a risk, I'm going to support you, and even if there's some spending against you for this, you'll be able to tap into
Yes.
that as a resource. Like, I mean, these are things that people don't see on the outside that I think are, you know, I'm a political nerd. I love this kind of stuff, but it's important, and it's part of why you're in the position you are now. And it's also been really, it's been reported that you and Mayor Mamdani have worked quite closely together. And that was really clear in the New York endorsements, because the mayor endorsed 3 House candidates, 2 of whom successfully toppled incumbents, 2 of whom were DSA. You did not. But what doesn't get talked about is that it also worked the other way with assembly challengers. So you endorsed 3 assembly challengers against incumbents. All of them won. And it's the same situation for Mamdani and for you. You have to work with members of the House. Mamdani has to work with members of the Assembly to get his agenda across. And politics is dirty. And so there's a great chance that you're going to be retaliated against, either you or Mamdani, if you miss and the incumbent makes it, right? Like, that is, I would imagine, a part of the strategy and how you guys have been coordinating.
Yeah.
So understand that this question is like a built-in excuse, right? She's not asking AOC to justify her position. She's excusing AOC's actions and saying, right? Well, you're doing this because of that, right? This again, this is not an interview. This is a conversation. It's really disturbing because you're not asking a question. You're setting up an excuse, and you're asking AOC to pad that shit out. And this idea that, oh, well, they're going to retaliate against you, this and that. Again, maybe that's acceptable your first year. But AOC is an established politician now. She's not losing her fucking seat. Like, stop acting like she's at risk here. They already tried that. They brought out a brown woman. They tried to do that shit. She passed the test. She's set. She's not losing that seat. The only thing is whether or not she wants to move up or not. That's the only question. But her, risking anything, absolute nonsense. She could make a 180 turn on all her political positions, her whole propaganda stuff. And name recognition alone will take her so far. For years, people will be like, well, I don't know, maybe she'll, go back to her old ways. That's how much of an established, political figure she is now. Let's stop acting like she's just a baby face.
I also think I also think there's a larger conversation about the natural limitations that come with any one elected position.
Right.
And
So the excuses Emma just made in that question weren't even enough. She's like, no, yeah, but there's limitations or something. You know, we're just restrained. We can't do shit. Meanwhile, the Republican Party or any Republican elected official is just fucking, yeah, let's fucking get it done. Every time. This is so fucking embarrassing, bro. What this does is just lower the fucking bar for these so-called, you know, politicians of change, of the future, of progress, of democratic socialism. It just lowers the bar, lowers your fucking expectations of what they will do when they gain power.
it is really hard to put 100% of every expectation in every situation on one person. And especially when that person is trying to execute on an agenda within the functions of their role. And so sometimes this coordination, it's not just explicit, it's also us functioning within the roles. And if anything, it also demonstrates the advantage of us organizing to support people at multiple levels of governance. Those pressures exist on him as a mayor because he has to coordinate his own budget for the city. The money for the city comes from the state, and his number one focus is being as effective as possible as mayor of New York City. And the same applies to me as a member of the House. And so some of this is also about demonstrating the advantages of what a growing coalition looks like at multiple levels of governance. There are those natural limitations. And also they create natural complementary strategies and positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah, absolutely. Everything you say is correct. We disagree on nothing. I mean, even just put on a fucking show at least. Shout out to Simplistic Linguistic, keeping the Twitch chat alive. They disagreed with me. They said, I'm sorry, Carlos, I have to disagree with you here. This is not a conversation. This is literally just PR work for AOC. It's not normal to talk to someone by asking them a question about what it is they're doing by speculating and then going, right? This is the most blatant, disgusting glow up of a politician there is. Yeah. She's basically doing an audition for White House press secretary for AOC. Don't worry, that gets brought up later. She's like, oh, I would never do that. It's like you're lying all the time. And I can't imagine myself lying like that.
Strategies and positions.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll turn back to the House here because I'm curious about the if Democrats take back the House, what is your sense of what the most fertile ground is going to be for, oversight of the Trump administration on committees? Because there's just so much to grab at here in terms of corruption and illegality. But I'm curious if you think in terms of like the House business where people think the Trump administration has its most vulnerabilities in terms of oversight.
This is what I'm going to say. You think anyone is ever going to ask AOC or any of these top young Democrats, hey, if you get power back, are you going to hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accountable for their role, for their involvement in the genocide of Palestinians? Is there ever going to be accountability for that? You think that question is ever going to be asked? Of course not. Absolutely not. Is it a question that should be asked? 100%, without a doubt. Now, I've been wanting to check this piece out for a second here. We'll read a little bit of it, but if it's not that great, we'll stop reading it because it is from The Nation. why AOC needs to apologize for her infamous DNC speech. She has the potential to unify the left in 2028 if she addresses her decision in 2024 to carry water for people committing the most severe crime of the 21st century. By Kareem El Rafael. Remind me if we read this before. I don't think we have. The failure to field a genuine left-wing challenger to Joe Biden in the 2024 Democratic presidential primary was one of the greatest strategic missteps from the organized left in our lifetime. We did not have a positive, unifying vision for our movement going into an era-defining election. Instead, we set ourselves up to stumble blindly through an election between a rudderless, impotent Democratic administration unflinchingly supporting Israel's genocide of Palestinians, and a Trump administration that promised to strip the copper wire out of the country on behalf of the capitalist class while terrorizing and deporting workers. With no viable alternatives, the organized left struggled to find its footing between impossible options. Some called for an outright boycott of the election, while others tried to find ways to support Kamala Harris in hopes of preventing Donald Trump's return to the White House. I know I tried reading this before, but it was paywalled. Perhaps the highest profile intervention from the pro-Harris wing of the left came when Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez spoke passionately in support of Harris at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. The speech, which was rapturously received by the crowd, was a potent symbol of AOC's newfound power within the party, while it also contained a moment that still haunts AOC to this day. Haunts her? I wouldn't say it haunts her when nobody fucking holds her feet to the fire, when no one's questioned her on it. How the fuck is that haunting? Her infamous and false declaration that Harris and Biden were working tirelessly to end the genocide in Gaza. I wrote about feelings of shock at the time, and I was not alone in having a strong reaction to AOC's speech. While reasonable minds could and did disagree about the strategy of endorsing Harris, it was a betrayal for a politician widely seen as the standard bearer for the Democratic Socialist Bloc in Congress to lie to the public and claim the very people perpetrating a genocide were actually working tirelessly to stop it. To this day, this is probably the single biggest black mark on AOC's otherwise solid record on Palestine. Again, inaccurate with that. The fact that she signaled so early on in her political career that she's willing to, play the game by saying, hey, I'm not going to vote no for the Iron Dome, instead I'm going to vote present, was a signal to the Zionists, to the Democratic Party establishment, that she was going to play ball, that she was malleable. And that fake crying, I mean, y'all seen this. I've pulled this up before. AOC crying, Iron Dome vote.
Designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
You don't think these lifelong politicians know exactly where their cameras are at and where to fucking do this shit? Oh, but it gets better. Oh man, come on.
Yesterday in this vote for the Iron Dome funding, and we should say there's some question in that Iron Dome funding legislation. Maybe it was just cut and pasted that this money could be used for the specific operation that was involved in basically going into Gaza. That operation supposedly ended in May. Maybe it was just cut and paste and it was still in that legislation. But in terms of its ability to be used for other things in addition to Iron Dome. But we saw AOC basically switch her vote at the last minute. I would imagine it had something to do with
redistricting New York State specifically because Bowman voted yes, and he's probably going to get redistricted for, I think, Westchester County will probably encroach into his district at some point. I'm not exactly sure, but it's notable to me that someone like Ayanna Pressley voted no. And I'm not trying to say she's like right-wing Democrat by any means, but of that group, I would say she's the least progressive, if I was to put it on the spectrum, than Bowman and AOC. So I think that there's something specific to New York that we need to be
well, the point being is that they found some leverage, right? I mean, because this is not, there was some leverage there. And
at the same time, AOC is voting to block bomb sales to Israel. So there's something about the Iron Dome vote specifically. And I'm not excusing it, but I think that and then the reports of her crying, there's something happening.
They found a way to apply leverage, right?
Yes, right. And the bottom line is they found the leverage there for the $1 billion for Israel, folks.
No accountability, none whatsoever. Excuse after excuse. Oh, they found leverage on them. Oh, something must be happening behind the scenes. There must be something with the district. Oh, this, oh that. Oh, what if fairies? Oh, what if dragons? What if wizards? They bend the fucking knee. No agency at all. Oh, they chose to do this for their political careers. It's disgusting that they're willing to align with genocidal settler colonial Zionists. Is New York redistricting behind Iron Dome votes from AOC and Jamal Bowman? Even this title is ridiculous. AOC and Jamal Bowman's vote on the Iron Dome funding was disheartening. Oh, it's just disheartening? Oh, wow. That must have been tough for you. AOC switched her vote from no to present, and Bowman voted in favor. There were reports that Ocasio-Cortez was crying after her vote. What happened to make her switch? So sympathetic, so concerning. Do me a favor. If you're worried about me, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, become a member. There are super chats, super stickers if you want to support, and check out the Discord. You get access to that through the Patreon, $2, and you're in. It's a great place, fun articles, great videos, great conversations. The unofficial book club on Saturdays. They're currently on Meditations on Fanon's Wretched of the Earth. I'm going to make more time to make sure that we watch more watch-along documentaries on that. And if you want to help support the channel long-term without anyone dipping in, consider hitting up the Cash App. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Let's get back to this. According to IMEU, she is rated among the highest in Congress in taking positive action for Palestinian rights, making her choice to carry water for Biden-Harris in this way even more baffling. No, it's not baffling, bro. It's not unprecedented. It makes perfect fucking sense because the bar and the standard is in fucking hell for Democratic politicians in support for Palestinians. That it makes sense that they would use the one that they're allowed to, tote around as the progressive, the radical, is that, of course, they're going to use her cachet in that very moment when they needed her most. Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez was there to help the fucking Fire Nation. Sorry. When they needed her most, Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez was there to help the Democratic Party gain some legitimacy, gain some trust in their attempt to continue carrying out this genocide through the Zionist project against Palestinians. And in amid increasing hype for a potential AOC presidential run in 2028, it is a moment that has proven very difficult for many on the left to forgive. AOC has never addressed or apologized for her decision to cover for the pro-genocide wing of her party. For her sake and for the sake of the left's political future, she needs to do both. I am one of the many people who hope that AOC will run and win in 2028. Wow, okay. Am I still planning on streaming on Saturdays? Yes, yeah. It'll be like Saturdays, like 2 p.m. or something like that. It'll probably be like Saturdays 2 to 6, you know, in case people have plans. They can go out and do the thing. Yeah, Claudia. All right, where are we at? Sorry, I missed this. Simplistic linguist said earlier, but Carlos, maybe the leverage they got on AOC is that she's a secret Nazi. So it's fine. That's true. We didn't consider that. If only she would have known that Emma Vigeland would not give a fuck and still support her. But it does not do anyone, including her, any favors to sweep this lingering sense of betrayal under the rug. One of the reasons she matters to us so much is that when she speaks, people, including crucially, people beyond the left's current base, listen. The reason they listen is that AOC is willing to speak truth to power and be a firebrand on behalf of working people. But in her DNC speech, she weakened that connection by carrying water for the people committing the most severe crime of the 21st century. And it's like, bro, like, aren't you like, how old are you? Respectfully, how old are you? Do you not get, like, that the whole point of this, the whole point of her seeming like she legitimately cares about the working class and that she's a firebrand, is just a fucking character she's playing for moments just like that, where she can cash in that trust to bamboozle more people? They're only mad that it didn't work and that they still lost. That's what they're upset about. I'm glad we're reading it honestly though, because it is kind of pathetic. Because look, he even says, she weakened that connection by carrying water for the people committing the most severe crime of the 21st century. You can't even say that she aided and abetted. You're talking about carrying water, bro. No. She was carrying fucking buckets of Palestinian blood. That's what she was doing. She helped to spread genocidal propaganda by lying at the DNC. And you're trying to downplay that shit. Or she could just say, I'm sorry, and it's fine. There's a reason why she hasn't yet. There's a reason why even independent media, like the Majority Report, hasn't questioned her on it. Despite being on record, disagreeing with her, disappointed with her. She says, hey, I'll come on to your show. It's like, oh, fine, yeah, we'll be nice. Hey, I'll come to the studio. Oh, yeah, no, great. No hard questions. With the 2028 election coming up, it is urgent that AOC make this right. Palestine is a defining issue of our time, particularly within the Democratic Party. It is a principal dividing line between Democratic primary candidates in this year's midterms, and there is no reason to expect its importance to wane in 2028. There is no path for a left-wing contender in the Democratic Party primary without moral clarity with respect to Palestinian liberation. And she can and will lose her ability to marshal the support she needs if she does not keep pace with the people who have made her the icon that she is. Fuck, bro. Calling her an icon is fucking pathetic. You might as well just call her the president now. Young people are overwhelmingly sympathetic to Palestinians and want to see accountability for the genocide they have witnessed while powerless to intervene. This is some like electoral slop here. We're not powerless. We're unorganized, but we're not powerless. We could have stopped this, but we didn't organize properly. It is 100% on us to stop it. And we have failed as we have before, time and time again. But we are not powerless. This is nothing but pure fucking electoral slop being pushed at you, saying all you can do is vote for a Democrat. All you can do is go to a voting booth. All you can do is, beyond that is organize for a politician, door knock for a politician in the Democratic Party. And for the first time in history, Democrats writ large are more sympathetic to Palestinians than Israelis. The public also understands that the Democratic Party has thus far largely aided and abetted Israel's crimes. It is therefore absolutely critical that AOC repair her bond with the anti-Zionist left. Or you could leave the Democratic Party. AOC can definitely win her seat re-election as an independent at this point. Let's stop playing fucking games. You shouldn't be saying, oh, AOC should run as a Democratic politician. You should be saying, hey, we should abandon the Democratic Party for committing the worst crime in the 21st century. With American sympathy swinging so dramatically towards Palestinians, a strong relationship with a broad-based movement that has organized to create that shift has the potential to propel her to victory. If she does not address the comments, they will instead remain an open sore, setting her otherwise potentially historic campaign back unnecessarily. No leftist presidential candidate, even AOC, will succeed without a highly energized anti-Zionist movement behind them. Whether it's Muslim voters in swing states, young people who have a mistrust of mainstream politics altogether, or DSA organizers across the country who have shown a talent and level of ferociousness in electing anti-Zionist socialist politicians at levels not seen in a century. There is a base hungry for clarity on this issue, and hungry for a candidate that can speak to their sense of urgency. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Who are these anti-Zionist socialist politicians? Where are they? I'm sorry, I'm going to bust a Francesca Fiorentini. I only stream 3 days out of the week. I don't know what else happens the other 4 days. So what have I missed, chat? What's going on? Let me know in the comments. Who are these anti-Zionist socialist politicians? They're in your heart. Look deep within you. They were always there. Yeah, exactly. Wow. They must be. Just this week, New York City DSA, continuing its winning streak following the election of Zohran Mamdani last year, delivered a massive blow to the Israel lobby by channeling popular anger about U.S. relationship with Israel into 2 congressional and several state-level races, including the campaign for Aber Kawas, who will be the first Palestinian in history to serve in the New York City legislature. In one race, Assemblywoman Claire Valdez and DSA defeated Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Oh, Claire Valdez was the one that was allowed to run, right? Because I'm confusing her with like Alexandria, right? What was the one that was like pushed out to the side because she was too much of a lefty? Yeah, it wasn't like the because I always thought this was a white woman for the longest. Because this is one image I would see of her, so I assume she was just like a white lady. The glasses really give Portlandia. But there was like an Afro Latina, right? And the Working Families Party, in no small part due to the fact that Reynoso was seen as insufficiently trustworthy on this issue because it took him over 2 years to refer to Israel's actions in Gaza as a genocide. In another, there Elisa Avila, what was it? Chevalier ousted Adriano Espaillat. I don't know. A 5-term representative who has consistently taken large sums of money from AIPAC and traveled to Israel with Hakeem Jeffries and Richie Torres. What I will say about this is it's meaningless because we know this shit. We know the game that their Lisa's fucking playing. And we know the game that Zohran Mamdani's playing. Because his main fucking like legal expert is what? Over here investing in Zionist military industries. They're at least just fucking dating him. So what are we doing here? The nation, man. Really, absolutely fucking pathetic. No, there's more? God damn it. How? We got to wrap this up. These results shows that Democratic voters are particularly kicking the door down to demand, These results show that Democratic voters are practically kicking the door down to demand new leadership that responds to the outrage of an agitated base. The Democratic socialists like Valdez and Avila Chevalier, as well as Chris Rabb in Philadelphia and Janice Lewis George in Washington, D.C., are winning convincing victories, and in some cases, knocking out powerful opponents by explicitly supporting Palestinian liberation should be a clear sign that the horizon of working class internationalist politics have significantly expanded. There is an opportunity for a unifying national leader to seize on this. No. They just learn how to make supporting Palestine a fucking brand. That's what they've done. They've learned how to fucking co-opt the movement. And what you're asking for is for AOC to step up and co-op it entirely. Put the fucking nail on that coffin of co-optation. AOC also can't take for granted that voters will have nowhere else to go. The presidential primary field will be full of Democrats who, even though their record on Israel is worse than AOC's, will still attempt to capture the outrage of Democratic primary voters. Many Democrats have already decided to criticize the Netanyahu government and refuse AIPAC money. While this represents a significant shift in the rhetoric of a Democratic establishment that has been otherwise totally unwilling to criticize Israel, it remains insufficient in the face of ongoing genocide. Senator Chris Van Hollen, for instance, has stepped forward as a presidential contender who has shown a willingness to criticize the relationship with Israel. Van Hollen's rhetoric is appreciated, but he has also voted to send aid to Israel repeatedly, including funding so-called defensive weaponry. Whoa, wait. How can you bring this shit up and not highlight AOC? How can you bring this shit up and not highlight AOC? Including funding so-called defensive weaponry like Iron Dome. He is an early example of what to expect in 2028. Politicians who have risen to the level of legitimate contenders for the presidency will have enough political instinct to be able to know that full-throated support for Israel will be a non-starter for most Democratic voters. They will start testing new positions. AOC needs to have the confidence and the base support to differentiate herself from the most opportunistic pack while you're advocating for her to be a complete opportunist. To show that her record and her positions reflect the growing flank and not the cynical median. Wow, man. Well, I'm glad we finally read this because it was worse than I ever thought it would be. Wow. Wow. Oh, there's one more section here. 15844. And here we go.
Kevin from Madison. AOC spoke at the Democratic Convention and said they were tirelessly working to end the violence and genocide. What the Democrats were doing in 2024 was not the meaning of tirelessly. More on Gaza should have been in that interview.
AOC was working tirelessly. Oh, God, I guess, yeah. I guess you're right. How pathetic is it? You went to school, to university, that the majority of us could never afford, that your parents paid for. And what? To give softball interviews to a politician, to not even ask them, hey, why did you lie in support of a genocide? When you're on record, you were on fucking stream, I've shown it time and time again of you saying, hey, nah, calling out the bullshit. Why is it they had to read this I am going, see, I was entirely and she lied, and yeah, I guess you're right, but you know, like, what is this shit? Look at the energy she's reading this with. It's like she's reading her own fucking ransom note.
Democratic convention said they were tirelessly working to end the violence in genocide. What the Democrats were doing in 2024 was not the meaning of tirelessly. More on Gaza should have been in that interview. I hear you. You know, I think she's pretty great on this issue, on the substance. Like, there are probably 3 or 4 Democrats that maybe have a better record on Palestine than her.
Who fucking asked? Were you interviewing them? Were they in the fucking room? Why is that even a talking point? What the fuck are we doing here? Nobody asked, is she the best? Nobody asked, who's better than her? Nobody asked, where does she rank? They said, hey, she fucking lied about Harris Biden working tirelessly for a ceasefire while they were carrying out a genocide of Palestinians that you pretended to care about, that you pretended to cry on stream over, while you went to your fucking Zionist therapist. And instead you're like, well, other people are worse. Who asked? Who made that claim? Like, what's going on here?
But her record on Palestine also was very, very good prior to October 7th, too. She was trying to get Democrats elected, and I am sure that quote is not gonna, you know, it's gonna be difficult for her to distance herself from it, but
How if you didn't bring it up? Who the fuck has brought it up to her? Who in the media, who in the independent left media has forced AOC to answer the question, why did she lie to the DNC about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden working tirelessly for a ceasefire? Same thing with the article we just read. Oh, it's haunting her. Oh, it's hard for her to distance herself from it. How the fuck? Nobody's asking her this. Has anyone seen an interview? Please let me know where somebody has questioned her on this. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be somebody from fucking Fox News. So all you motherfuckers be like, oh, you're a hypocrite for even asking her that question. And so then there you go. It gets swept under the rug. Never have to truly address it. Because now you're focusing on the messenger, not the fucking message. When you could have delivered that shit yourself.
that quote is not gonna, you know, it's gonna be difficult for her to distance herself from it, but I think her record overall is the more important thing.
Her record is more important than her proving that she is willing to fucking lie to everyone on behalf of the Democratic establishment for a fucking genocide? Holy shit, bro. Vic says it's going to be Tucker Carlson, isn't it? God, fuck, I think you're right. And the right populists are going to fucking love it. Jimmy Dore is going to be fucking needing a diaper change. And everyone from the Majority Report to the Zionist Guard to the leftist mafia, from Kyle, KKK, Kalinske, and Crystal Ball, are going to jump to her fucking defense. And again, focus on the messenger, not the message, because none of them have dared to ask her the simple fucking question, why did you lie on behalf of a fucking genocidal administration? They have interviewed her at the Majority Report twice now. One with Sam Cedar and one in studio with Emma Vigeland, and it has not come up once. This is pathetic, this is fucking disgusting, and it's unsurprising. Why call yourself independent media? What is the point? What is the goal? Other than to lie to us, to lie to your audience, to normalize this fucking nonsense?
Ryan from Santa Monica, of course, PBD found what podcast would be best for kids to watch. The PBD podcast, probably.
And Miss Rachel, is she in that positive?
Yeah. And
learning
look,
these numbers and shapes
right.
and things.
And there were a few questions I didn't get to ask with AOC too that.
See, her conscience, bro. Her conscience. She knows she's a fucking fraud. In fact, when I called in, ended up debating Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar, and Matt Leck over the liberal Zionist propaganda, she immediately knew what I was referring to when I said, hey, you said the Zionist entity has a right to exist because it does exist. And she cut me off and finished her quote, because she knows, she's aware of what she's doing. This is not just, an unintelligent person. I'm not saying she's the brightest fucking or sharpest person. What I'm saying is she's aware enough. She's self-aware enough to where they move on. In fact, she moves on, and she can't let that shit go because she knows she's a fucking fraud. She knows very damn well that she's nothing but a fucking stooge. She's not a real fucking journalist. She's a fucking failure with no integrity. And that's why she had to double back and make a further excuse. You don't double back. You moved on. You started giggling and laughing about reactionaries. Oh, it's so fucking easy to laugh about BPD in this podcast. Who gives a shit about that?
Ryan from Santa Monica, of course, PBD found what podcast would be best for kids to watch. The PBD podcast, probably.
And Miss Rachel, is she in that positive?
Yeah. And
learn
look,
these numbers and shapes
right.
and things.
And there were a few questions I didn't get to ask with AOC too that, like, I'm sure we'll have her on again, and we'll be able to ask some more questions. She was time limited.
Hold on. So your excuse, Emma, is you didn't have a lot of time. Well then, why didn't you prioritize the hardest hitting questions? And I would assume lying about a genocide would be one of those. Top 3 easy. We heard the questions you asked her. They weren't fucking questions. They were fucking built-in excuses for her current moves. So do me a favor, y'all. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Check out the Patreon, the Cash App, deculturation on everything. I appreciate y'all. All right. This will be our last story for the afternoon. I appreciate y'all being here sincerely. I mean, man, a careerist through and through. She sided with Cenk Uygur, Emma Vigeland did, over the TYT union. That should tell you everything. This is like when Brace Belden goes to all the Nazi events for research and has a pretty chill time because they're all low-key his people. Absolutely. Yes, because the empire trains its own propaganda. Yep. You call yourself independent media so you can more directly work with and or take money from the establishment. You just dropped the pretense. Yep. Did she just brush past it? She did, basically. She had to double back, though, because they're conscious. This is a woman. Sorry. This is the woman is fine for politicians being secret Nazis as long as they vote. As long as their voting record is good. So this is not surprising. You're right. But she's one of the best Democrats, as if that's something to be impressed with. Yep. And the Netanyahu government, the liberal Zionists, and scapegoating. Yep. The glasses were too whimsical for sure. They uncomfortably, like and maybe that's me. Like maybe this is like homophobia or something. But like those glasses make me feel unsafe. Yeah, the demeanor was way different, man. Way different. All right. No one has any time that is affiliated with TMR. Francesca doesn't have time. Matt Binder has 3 kids, so he can't know anything about Grand Planner. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's lock in. Well, this one's brief, so maybe we'll sneak in one more. But I did want to highlight this. Very tragic. Guatemalan man deported from U.S. and wife found dead in sugarcane field, baby alive beside them. And it's so fucking heartbreaking when the silver lining is that the baby is alive. an orphan. And look, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what type of trauma is internalized by a baby in that environment. I don't know what effects, but we know for damn sure that not growing up with their parents, you know, finding out about the brutal way that they were murdered is going to affect them without question. Guatemalan man deported from the US and his wife, who recently self-deported to join him, were found dead in a sugarcane field in the southwestern Guatemala. Authorities said on Tuesday their 1-year-old daughter was discovered alive beside them. And like literally the best case scenario is that you hope that, you know, as they were being murdered, that they knew that their baby was going to be alive and hopefully safe, because I'm sure that was more painful, not knowing what was going to happen to their child, than whatever physical pain, you know, was they were going through. Nixon Giovanni Perez, 43, and Glindy Marisol Gonzalez, who was in her 20s, were found with their hands tied behind their backs in a field outside the city of Retatuli, about 180 kilometers, that's 112 miles, west of the capital, Guatemala City. Photos reviewed by the Reuters showed. Guatemala's prosecutor's office said in a statement that the infant girl and the couple's 2 other children were placed in the care of extended family members. The pair was reported missing last week, according to local newspapers. The pair was reported missing last week, according to local news reports. Police said Perez was found with a possible gunshot wound to his neck, and Gonzalez had a wound to her head. Shell casings and a pink and white Champion shoe were found nearby. They had no personal belongings. A red striped motorbike was seized at the scene. Their death underscored the dangers and hardship that can await immigrants deported from the United States amid a mass deportation driven by President Donald Trump's administration. And what I will add to this is, well, yes, of course, there's mass deportations on the streets occurring. That is, you know, slightly somewhat unique to the Trump administration. What, you know, the Obama and Biden administration were doing was essentially, you know, denying people at the border, still had similar results in the reality that these people weren't allowed to seek asylum from danger. I could tell you from like familial experience, like the threat on your life is never too far removed, and you have to get people out of there as soon as possible. And it's not easy, it's not cheap. It is dangerous. And even when you make it over here, there's still that possibility, even back then, you know, a couple years ago, that you get fucking denied, that your true position and fear of your life being threatened won't be enough. And you add to the mix that sometimes like people aren't married, right? But they're together, they have a family, and or they've been together a long time. And it's like, well, your partner can stay, but you can't, or situations like that. It's like, it's really unfair because you're still putting your loved ones at risk. Yeah, Gio. I mean, a lot of these things, when you have family in you know, certain areas, like, you're not too far removed from knowing about the intimate violence that's occurring there. Vigil plan in the U.S. The couple's troubles began last year when Perez and his brother were detained by immigration agents in Overland, Missouri, on their way to roofing jobs, Perez's brother, Ronaldo, told St. Louis Public Radio. Perez, who had fled violence and poverty in Guatemala, was deported last year. Gonzalez self-deported to Guatemala in recent weeks to join her husband, Ronaldo said. And I believe I saw that she did this in order to avoid, you know, her children growing up without their father. And I hate that, you know, families are put in that position of saying like, well, do we stick together and have each other, or, you know, do we live apart? And, you know, no matter what you tell a child in that situation, they're going to grow up without a father, and that resentment, that hurt, that pain, that trauma is going to be there. And, you know, it's an impossible fucking position that you're put in, because, you know, if it's a single mother now with a newborn 1-year-old, right? A 1-year-old and 2 other children. And now the husband's deported to Guatemala. How's he going to make enough? How's he going to be able to send enough money to the fucking United States? How is she going to make it? How are those kids going to have the support at home that is necessary? Because for sure she's working at least one job. At least one job. So I just don't want anyone to pass judgment on them. And I know nobody tuning into this will. I know that, I get it. But it's, you know, subconsciously sometimes, you know, we have these thoughts, or just like, why would they do that, or this and that. It's an impossible position to be put in. And the reason why it's impossible is exactly because of this. It's easy to say, well, she should have stayed with her kids. What if she would have been deported next? What if ICE would have captured her next? And now her kids are stranded in the US without either parent. Representatives for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Overland Police did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The Missouri Worker Center said it will hold a vigil on Sunday for Perez and Gonzalez, who was a member of an immigrants' rights organizing committee of the workers' group. And with that alone, I'm saying it right now, just with this information, he might have been targeted. Glendy came to our Fuerza meetings 3 weeks after giving birth. She was working 2 jobs. And bringing new members, showing up, and even as her world was being torn apart. They said on social media in June, to protect her daughters and keep the rest of her family together, and fearing she might lose custody of her girls, Lindy made the impossible decision to go back to Guatemala, even with an asylum court date set for 2027. And this is what I mean, y'all. This is what I mean. Like, we don't have any. We don't have any fucking excuse not to organize when these are the examples that we have before us. Nearly 32,000 people have been deported to Guatemala in the first 6 months of 2026, according to UN data, a 47% increase from the same period last year. More than 90% of deportees were sent from the United States and the rest from Mexico. Guatemala's government, which attributes a wave of murders that spiked over the last week to organized crime, announced a plan on Monday to strengthen the country's security measures. Which just means mass repression, fucking police state. That isn't gonna fucking solve anything. Yep. Exactly right. A perfect way to cap this.
Vice President Kamala Harris addressed illegal immigration while in Guatemala Monday during her first foreign trip. The vice president is tasked with addressing the surge of migrants attempting to enter the U.S. illegally at the southern border. During a news conference with Guatemala's president, she said the Biden administration was working to address the root causes of migration and delivered a stark warning to would-be migrants. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has the latest from Guatemala City.
No, let's just get to her speech, y'all.
To be corrupt. The conversation that I had with President Giammattei today was very frank and very candid.
But Guatemala's President Alejandro Giammattei bristled when asked by CBS if he's part of the problem.
How many cases of corruption have I been accused?
Zero. The vice president's trip to the region is high stakes, not only for an administration facing intense criticism of border security, but also for her future political ambitions and her place in history as the first female vice president traveling abroad.
I welcome showing anyone, whatever your race or gender, that you may be the first to do anything, make sure you're not the last.
What the fuck? I had never heard that in its entirety. Or, well, obviously we're not listening to all that bullshit, but like, God, so fucking pathetic.
Now, over the next several months, probably the next several years, to continue talking with leaders.
I just want to hear I just want to hear what she says. Why is that so fucking difficult? I don't give a shit about your summary, bro. What the fuck? Here we go.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
And yes, to be very clear, as Diddler says here, that this has turned into a meme. I mean, you can see it right here.
Do not come.
It has been turned into a meme that, individuals like Hassan Piker use. Right? I mean, it's a sexual degenerate sex tourist. Unsurprising. But the violence behind it is this. The reality behind it is that exactly. This is why they're willing to make that journey. This is why they're so desperate for some semblance of safety. Because this is the fucking outcome. This whole idea that people come here for the American dream, I mean, yeah, maybe some of them do. But the majority of them just want some semblance of peace and safety. Even knowing that they're going to be undocumented, even knowing that they're going to be hunted down, even knowing that they're going to be targeted, exploited because of shit like this. That occurs because the U.S. treats Latin America like its fucking backyard. So this is not just on the Donald Trump administration. This is not just on the Obama administration. This is not on Biden's administration. This is not on George W. Bush administration. It's on all of these people. Every single one of them. Elected, non-elected bureaucrats, you name it. They're all holding this structure, these institutions, these systems together. And they're all guilty, and they all have blood in their hands. We're going to wrap up there, y'all. Shorter stream today. But I really got to handle some things. I appreciate y'all. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Appreciate all the support. As always, As always, appreciate all the support. Let me do this here. We're going to wrap up. If you can, check out the Patreon. Appreciate everyone that's been supporting. Thank you so much. As always, remember what Glenn Ford said. Organize with eyes wide open. John Trudell, the Beast. In a wisp of smoke down on the corner, there was this cat named Fortunately, talking at me from voices in his head, yelling about what storytellers said. You gotta be careful here, child. There's a beast in the promised land. There's madness you don't understand. The beast is crazed and running wild. Little boy, man, little girl, woman, no big deal, nothing personal. Your mind's another meal. Savoring the rush of you like heady wine. Feeding is what the beast is meant to do. Stranger are those walls built to hide. Stranger to look and learn not to see. He's in the mask you put on your face. Thoughts, his favorite breeding place. In the race to midnight, it's after 11. The nature of the beast is all he knows. Behind doors of hell are gates of heaven. Doors are open, but the gates are closed. Yes, dude.